Yeah, so we'll see if the fourth host of this podcast chimes in any further. But boys, this is my episode, part 2 of my racing series, Dorikin. AKA the Tales in the Slide Decks, Tokyo Drift. The weeb continues.
Oh my God! Save some words for the rest of us, Taylor.
Is Tokyo Drift copywritten or anything like that? Can we say that?
Yeah, is the
Fucking
origin
come at me,
of
Universal.
Tokyo? Yeah, no.
Try me, dude.
Is the term Tokyo Drift specifically? Was it created for the movie, or was that an actual term?
Yeah, and to continue on with this podcast, as we know, the history of drifting in 2006,
It begins.
Lucas Black created the auto sport of drifting, and that was documented in the documentary,
Oh,
The
yes.
Fast and the
It's
Furious
real life.
Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
This is the day one.
So see you next time,
Perfect.
everyone.
Oh, bye.
Done and dusted.
Wow, Taylor, we didn't even
This has been
introduce
Tales
ourselves.
from the Slide Deck. I've been Zach.
I'm Taylor.
I'm Ryan.
And just kidding.
Psyche.
This actually is not
Okay.
the end of
shit.
the podcast.
Wait. They were drifting in old cars?
They have been. It exists. So, to really introduce ourselves, this is Tales from the Slide Deck. I'm your
up?
host for this podcast episode, Taylor Roberts. And
That's the name of the episode?
Holy shit.
Episode Taylor
Save
Roberts.
some words for the rest of us.
First off, doxed.
Yeah.
Second, I am Zach.
And thirdly, I'm Ryan.
and I want to
how about
celebrate the fact that Zach's physically here.
I'm
with us.
in the flesh.
Yeah.
We're running that like 50% IRL versus remote streaming.
Yeah. Actually, it's more of a 66%, isn't it?
I don't know.
Somewhere in there.
Something of that.
Math
nature.
is tough. Numbers is tough.
Yeah.
Words is easy.
I don't pay enough
It's good to
attention
have
this
you in the
podcast.
same room.
Yeah, it's good to be here, guys.
But this is actually truly, like, I guess the true subtitle of the episode, car dressage.
Okay.
Oh, the art of oversteer.
Okay. Well, let's do a recap. What was the part one? We talked about the race, the big race that Toyota. The Toyota,
rallying.
the
and all.
rallying.
Toyota
No,
did a
that-
lot of racing.
The Australian
yeah.
Open or whatever.
Nope. It was.
the tour to Australia.
It's the cunt 200.
It was the Porsche.
Anyways,
The 1949 Round Australia Rally.
that's
yeah.
it. Yeah, the
yes.
round ball rock.
Yeah, the round ball rock.
John Dash presents.
The John Dash presents the round
He
ball
was
rock.
there.
What was our first episode about?
Yeah, it was about
It was about Mike
TRD.
Cameron. Oh, that was our first episode.
It was.
Sorry, no, our previous episode, yes, was about Toyota racing development.
Okay. Oh yeah, TRD. That's
And
right.
how-
It was the history of TRD.
How Toyota racing developed. And dare I say, boys, this is the least Toyota episode I've ever made.
Okay, this is
Wow.
more about the process. This
This
is more about
is
the
more about
game.
more about a man
Oh,
and his impact on modern car culture.
is it Mr. Drift? Is
Dr.
it Mario and Drifty?
Yeah, no, it is.
Whoa.
It is Mario and Drifty. Yeah, that's his name. You got it. Although
Go
Zach,
back to that last
Nailed
line. See you next time, everybody.
it's actually kind of funny, Zach, that you gave me a great segue here.
I love it.
Pulling up a vaguely Italian name because the history of drifting is murky at best. Like, what I'm going to talk about today is not the beginning of drifting by any means whatsoever. It
Okay.
was happening like decades upon like decades beforehand.
Yeah.
Realistically, drifting began when the first person was driving their car and they were taking a corner a little too fast and their rear end stepped out.
Yeah.
And instead of like braking and spinning out, they gassed through it and probably said, "Oh shit, oh fuck," and like pissed themselves a little bit.
But they made it.
But they made it, and then they realized, hey, that's kind of fun.
So then you go from unintentional drifting to intentional drifting. Look what I can do.
Yeah, I mean, like moonshiners,
Controlling it a little bit
like,
more.
Bootleggers were probably drifting on like dirt country roads
yeah.
back in the day. One of our first like quote unquote documented cases of drifting comes from the autobiography of Enzo Ferrari.
Okay.
The founder of the Ferrari Motor Corporation.
I would say one of the least driftable cars.
One of my favorite fascist collaborators.
Yeah.
Enzo
Not Hugo
Ferrari.
Boss?
Nope. And Hugo Boss never made anything
Is he
fast.
dead? Is
Fashion was pretty
Enzo
fast.
Ferrari?
isn't it?
Yeah, he's very dead.
he's very dead?
Yeah,
Is he super dead?
He was like alive during Mussolini's reign, and like was an adult man for the reign of Benito Mussolini.
Wow.
So
Benny.
Yeah, he was. So he's like crazy dead. That's why you have Adam Driver playing him in movies and shit.
Okay, I don't know, because...
That's why we can do whatever we want with his memory.
Yeah.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, he's public domain. But so Enzo Ferrari, in his autobiography, argued that in 1931, after his wife had given birth to a child and he had hung up his career as a racer, like now that he had like a child to look out for and care for, he couldn't no longer be on the track. He brought on some drivers and was beginning to form his race team. As Ferrari.
He's stepping away from the wheel.
Yeah. And so he was on like sort of a reconnaissance drive, both to like kind of try out a driver and also, get, a lay of the land of some of the courses they were going to be running in
Is
Italy.
drifting like his little methadone for his addiction of driving? He's like, I'm just going to do a little bit of drift. I'm just going to go a little fast.
Well, I mean, there's got to be
go a little bit of fast.
A little bit of an advantage there. Because, I mean, you're coming out of a corner. I mean, going around a corner at any speed, it's going to slow you down a little bit, whether you're drifting through it or whether you're going through it. But maybe that gunning it at the end is like, ooh, a little bit of advantage. I'm coming out of this corner quicker than the average bear.
Yes. And in these days, like the automotive technology, like wasn't great. Corners were a big obstacle. You had like, bad suspension, bad tires. We'll touch on that in a little bit.
Okay.
And so like corners are kind of a big deal. You got to really slow down. But Enzo was sort of like going on a tandem drive with one of his drivers, Tazio Nuvolari. Tazio Nuvolari. Don't probably ask him where he was in the 1930s. Well, this was 1931, so I guess he was driving.
That was the old Alari, all right?
Good.
Now he's the new Alari.
Yeah. But Enzo says, like, yeah, we're heading to this corner. It was a corner that he was, like, familiar with just from, like, his countryside drives, knowing, like, that motherfucker's going way too fast. And then watches the car go into a four-wheeled skid and thinks, like, this guy's about to wreck this car. But he gasses out of it. So he's like, he's completely, seemingly lost control of the vehicle, nails the throttle, was able to like counter steer into the turn, which counter steering is like if you're skidding to the left, you steer to the left. Normally your natural inclination would be like, well, I want to steer right away from the direction I'm sliding out of control of. But if you steer into it, that can give you an opportunity to straighten the car back out.
Gotcha.
So Enzo Ferrari claims...
Wait, draw it on the screen. Draw it on the screen. So everybody... Because I understand what you're saying, but
So your asset's swinging out this way. You're going around a right-hand corner. You're going a little too fast. So here's the butt of your car, and it's going woo that way. So what you want to do is you want to take... If you're going to the Rob Roberts Top Gun School of Driving like I did when I was 15 years old and it was snowing out and my dad's like, we're going to teach you how to counter steer.
Oh, yeah.
You turn your wheels to the left so that when you apply throttle, the car now wants to straighten itself out because the car wants to go the way that the wheels are pointing. So the rear end, as long as you can regain some sort of semblance of traction, is going to move back to the right. And your car will straighten out, and hopefully you don't go off a cliff or hit a guardrail before the car, does that, and is now much more in control.
Hell yeah.
This is most effective with rear-wheel drive cars and some all-wheel drive cars. Front-wheel drive cars don't drift super great because all the power is also in the wheels where you're steering, so the car wants to go that way. So you need something like a gravel road or an icy road and an e-brake. Or if you were a car kid that fucked around in high school and like your friend's Civic, you put like some like plastic trays you steal from a McDonald's under your rear wheels so they have no traction. Ooh. And it doesn't matter if they don't have traction because all the power is coming from the front. And so when you turn, the car wants to slide out because your rear wheels aren't like keeping the car stable at all.
Oops, all slides.
Yeah.
Does McDonald's still have trays, or did COVID get rid of those?
I think they do. I don't know.
Either.
They're somewhere.
Someone has the trays.
Someone go steal them. Someone's got to keep the tradition alive.
You said this was in the 30s, or no?
This is actually probably in the 1950s. Those are Corvettes.
Sure. But you're talking about Enzo Ferrari building a team. That was in the early 30s?
Yes, this was 1931, where he, according to Enzo Ferrari's words, had seen the first man drift.
Wow.
What
a statement.
It could be, Enzo could be, part right. It could be the first man that he saw drift.
Yeah.
That could be undeniable.
Or it's a eureka. He's seen a car slide 1,000 times, but it's that one eureka moment, like Galileo or Newton with the fucking apple falling on his head, where he's just kind of like, oh, I get it now. We can use this to our advantage, or
he didn't. It was just like, hey, that guy can drive the piss out of a car. He didn't spin out or crash. He actually like throttled his way out of it. Like, that's a racer.
And I want to bring up then the same idea I was having with the Pokemon episode of Japan going from 1945 to 1975, a 30-year gap, and having this huge technology boom. The car development. You're saying that in the 30s we're seeing high-powered cars drifting. That's like 20, 30 years after like the Model T comes out. When does the Model T come out? It's like 1920s,
Like
1910s?
Early 1900s.
Yeah.
The technological advances of cars, I mean, that just seems crazy. It's crazy fast. And then
They
in
have
the scheme of things.
Car technology is actually, by the 1930s, is actually kind of set back a decade because
Really?
of this thing called the Great Depression.
Oh.
Where nobody could
Tell
afford
me more about that. Do you have a slide for that one?
I don't.
bummer.
Nobody could afford to buy cars. So, like, that's when Toyota was wanting to get its start, and, like, nobody could afford to buy cars.
Right.
The Ford, like, the follow-up to the Model T, like, I don't remember what the name of that car was, but it
T2.
fell flat on its
Model
face.
S.
Judgment Day.
Yeah, the T2, the Model T2 Judgment Day fell flat on its face because nobody could afford to buy these Ford cars anymore. And Ford, at this point, I think, had converted his factories over to, like, furniture and, like, munitions factories. To like keep his employees like on the books.
He had government deals, right?
Oh,
for the second big war.
Not and with multiple governments too.
Yes. Yeah. No.
He took
noted,
no sides.
Noted.
Money takes no sides.
But no, it's an interesting dilemma in that period of time because with somebody not just like your Ford, having that technology sort of plateau with nowhere to go allows your mind to wander, for the creative types to wander and be like, well, theoretically, how can we make a more powerful engine? How can we make a more powerful this? I know we're a furniture company now, but maybe we'll go back to making cars.
One day.
And honestly, like, there was like the bounds of technology in automobiles were being pushed during that decade because of the fact that like the only cars that you were selling were luxury automobiles. So that's where you're starting to see like air conditioning, like windshield wipers,
Fancy. Tell me about these.
brake
lights.
Like automatic transmissions, things of that nature, like begin to like come around as like these extreme luxury options to like help encourage rich people to spend money that like they still have, but you know they're being a little more tight with it, to go out and buy your fancy Cadillac, your fancy Bugatti, your fancy you know, Aston Martin, your Ferrari. But yeah, so like while like car consumption and like consumer like vehicle technology went way down in the 30s, there was some innovations, and there was even, you know, there was still auto racing going on at the time. Yeah, but like I said, this picture here, like this is some like Corvettes, probably in the 50s on a
I guess
really
like during the Depression there was the bootlegging.
Yeah,
that was occurring, and that's where NASCAR comes from. Is just a bunch of people racing.
Well, we brought an end to like the Great Depression. Kind of is like simultaneous with the end of like Prohibition.
Right? Yeah.
It's towards the end. There is an overlap.
Well, that
Must have been a miserable time. Must have been a hell of a time to be alive.
If everybody's out of work and doesn't have money, just being like, oh my God, I can go sit on the hill and watch some people go around a track, a dirt track, is just the only entertainment you can have. Like, yeah, no.
Well, and like American racing history, like as Prohibition ends, like these moonshiners, like, you know, they can just get real jobs and they don't have to like drive fast anymore, but they still want to drive fast, and that's the roots of NASCAR here in America. But yeah, so like drifting predates like what the subject of this podcast episode is going to be. But let's sort of start from the beginning. Let's meet one of our first heroes of this podcast, Kunimitsu Takahashi.
All right.
Yeah.
He was born January 29th in 1940 in the Kagone city, outside of like on the outskirts of Tokyo.
Okay.
A lot of Japan. More weeb talk. More weeb talk in the
He
podcast.
threw in the titles, Zach.
Yeah,
I know.
Oh, don't
Revenge of
worry.
the Weeb.
There will be more bemoaning weeb shit later on. Kunimitsu Takahashi up here in our top left picture. This handsome motherfucker
So
right
happy.
here. Yeah, he was a born racer. He was young, dumb,
The
and
race
full-
came out pretty slow, and I was like, he's a born racist.
His mom was
What?
only in labor for about 15 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? He was a guy that was born in 1940 in Japan. He may have been a racist. I wouldn't want to ask him what his opinions on Koreans were.
Yeah, right.
But you know, we don't know what that is, and we're just gonna pretend like
we're not gonna even question it.
Yeah. So he was born, like, you know, he spent his formative years, like as a, you know, child during, you know, war era Japan, and then his more formative years, his adolescence in the post-war era of Japan, where you kind of get this culture, Bozuzoku culture emerges, where you have these like Japanese soldiers who have begun to be influenced by like American culture as America occupies.
First, it's the blue jeans.
Now they're wearing white T-shirts.
Now they're having French fries for breakfast.
Now they're eating KFC and wearing leather jackets.
Yep.
Hell yeah!
But a part of that was, you know, motorcycle racing, and Kunimitsu was like right up in the guts of that Bozuzoku motorcycle racing culture, and he was damn good at it.
Really?
Yeah, by the time he was 18 years old, he was already a pro MotoGP racer. In
so he
Japan.
has like a team at that point.
He's like pretty much self-funded at this point in time.
Okay.
He's just a kid. He's
the Travis Pastrana of fucking Japan in the 40s, 50s or 60s,
sure,
or whatever
yeah,
this is.
This would be 1958 at this point in time. But you know, he idolizes Soichiro Honda. He loves Honda motorcycles. This is him and his boys in the Honda Speed Club right over here.
Dude, that's a squad goals right
That's
there.
an anime I'd watch.
Yeah.
Is
Is that not Akira? Is that not the prequel to Akira?
It could be. But yeah, so he made his like motor racing debut in Japan at 18, and he was damn good. He was winning races. He moved fast. This is him on, I believe, a 250 cc or cubic centimeter.
It says 100 right there, buddy.
Well, that's his number. That's his racing number. He was number 100 in the race, but the engine size was 250 cubic centimeters.
Sorry. Pardon me.
No worries.
That isn't really like that's a sexy 1960s bike.
This would have been
Also 58?
yeah, probably 60s if we had to guess.
It's a Honda.
Early 60s.
Not all of these pictures are like of the exact year that I say they are.
No, I know.
You're giving us a general timeline.
These Japanese people from like the 1950s and 60s, much like the 1940s, if you do, Google search isn't really your friend.
No,
you're not really
absolutely
finding
not.
a lot
No,
of
they're
really
still data logging some of that old stuff.
Yeah. So not all of this shit is like none of this shit maybe from the 50s.
Right.
Maybe
He could be a 37-year-old man in that left photo.
He might be. I feel like this is the youngest he's ever looked because he becomes an old-looking man very quickly.
It happens
from what I
over
saw.
a weekend.
Yeah. Happens to the best of us, man. But anyway, his exploits and his like, you know, his public love for Honda does inevitably like draw the eye of Sauron, that is Shuichiro Honda, to him. You know, you got this kid who's winning races. He's, you know, talking about how much he loves your bikes. He's
got
winning
dubs in the
races
chat.
on your bikes. So at 20 years old, he signs with Honda.
Nice.
Just in like a general like, I guess like in NASCAR they sponsor like Toyota.
Yeah, you got
sponsors. So like he gets bikes and maintenance and shit like that.
Manufacturers want good racers to race their bikes in the race events because people watch these races and think, oh, I could be like him.
Mm-hmm.
Not
I need
to
to buy a
leapfrog
Honda.
here or anything, but does he get like a signature bike model, like a Air Jordan?
Not necessarily. No, he was just racing. He was racing all sorts of bikes, and that's going to be somewhat of I would say a general theme here. Like these are racers, and like racers, well, they have like they
race.
They love things, and you know they might have things that they're well known for, but they just put them behind any sort of fast machine, and they're gonna
Gotcha.
ride or drive it.
Oh,
very
it's like the
fast.
talent. It's the talent that they have.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, they're a bit of mercenaries. They'll sign whoever's willing to write them a check and give them a machine to drive. And so, so at 20 years old, he signs with Honda. So this would have been like 1960. And then at age 21 in 1961, Honda sends him and some teammates of the Honda Speed Club over to Europe to start racing, where MotoGP was like, a big sport at the time. And so Kunimitsu Takahashi won a race in West Germany and was the first Japanese rider to win a European MotoGP event. At the time, he had stated, part of the reason why he was such a good driver is sort of that like insane recklessness. He was young, dumb, full of the kamikaze spirit.
Young, dumb, full of kamikazes.
The kamikaze spirit's his own words. I added the young and dumb before that.
Oh, totally.
But yeah, he said I was fearless. Like I think that I just I thought that I had that kamikaze spirit, and I couldn't I had that bulletproof mentality.
He was the original no fear.
Yeah.
He would be rocking that no fear logo.
Well, you gotta be when you're racing around at these speeds on the goddamn motorcycle.
Jeez, yeah.
And later on in his life, he did talk about how he didn't actually win right away. He was the first Japanese rider to win in Europe, but he didn't he had to take some L's.
He wasn't one of one.
Yeah,
he took a lot of swings and misses.
Yeah, he had to hold some L's because as an older man, he talked about it in interviews. Like when he and the Honda team arrived in Japan, they were bewildered by the road infrastructure that spanned across Europe at the time.
Oh, word!
This is also 1960s. The American interstate system is just starting to come online, and the Japanese have the Americans haven't really imported that over to Japan yet. There are highways between major cities and arterial roads in Japan, but a lot of roads from small town to small town are still just dirt country roads, and that's what Kunimitsu and his buddies are used to driving on.
He trained in Iraqi dojo roads. And then he goes to this beautiful, pristine West Germany with their slick roads. That's what we're getting at, right? West Germany, or these
France,
courses.
Spain.
These courses had great, fine cement that he didn't have to compensate for gravel debris.
Yeah, but you're racing you're used to racing on dirt roads, and you have these people who they've been spending years racing motorcycles. So and they've been doing it on better paved roads. So it took some time to grow accustomed to it. Coming off of 2 class wins in Spain and France, and that's when he met
winning everywhere.
The most insane race that exists in any motorsport whatsoever: the Isle of Man TT.
Oh my God!
Yes.
Oh. What you just
Mantiti could be a funny name for a country.
Mantity. The Isle of Man.
What are we 8? This is great.
A little bit. Whoa. Okay. Let me soak this thing in here.
So I only know Isle of Man because of Crusader Kings. When I'm I'm starting here and making my own British Empire from the middle on this tiny little island in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
But there's
okay.
A prestigious motorcycle race.
Yes, the most prestigious motorcycle race, and also the deadliest race in all of motorsports.
Holy shit.
I don't know. I think Dale Earnhardt's death counts for about 2 billion.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if we waited that hard,
2 billion hearts died that day.
But no, in 1907, the Isle of Man TT, touring race.
1907.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Began on the Isle of Man, which is this tiny little island, as you can see here, betwixt England and Northern Ireland.
That's really hidden away there.
They speak a language called Manx there, which is not quite English, not quite Irish or Scottish Gaelic. It's not Welsh. It's its own sort of weird little culture that's preserved by just the isolation of it all.
It never ceases to amaze me how many different languages and accents come from just in that image right there. Is that 5 different countries right there? Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, and Wales?
Yes, well, the United Kingdom is formed out of 4 countries: England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
And then Ireland is its own thing.
Yes, the Republic of Ireland is independent of the United Kingdom.
And there's probably some grand, rich history we should have learned.
There's a shitload of it. Exactly. There's a shitload of it. But yes, so the Isle of Man TT, founded in 1907, and in its 117-year history, 269 riders have died.
Whoa.
So every 6 months, someone dies.
I assume this race was once a year.
It is.
Oh, okay.
But just if you average it out, every
There's
time...
at least 2 deaths every race.
Yeah, every time you're supposed to get your teeth cleaned by your dentist, a dude is dying on this tiny little fucking island.
Holy crap.
In a horrific motorcycle accident.
Welcome to Thunderdome.
Welcome.
And so we have Takahashi. This is supposed to be his coming out party to superstardom in MotoGP. But it is an insane race. It, follows this course, as you see here, from the town of Douglas up to Ramsey, nearby Peel, and then back to Douglas.
All these British names are so cute.
Yes.
I wanted to
Ramsey.
mention, they called
Douglas.
it the Troubles. It's the cutest
The
name
Troubles.
for terrorism.
That's what they call terrorism?
That's what they call it in
Or
Ireland,
freedom
yeah.
fighting, depending on
Yeah, who's asking?
what side of the border you're
Depending on if you're Catholic or Protestant.
Yeah.
That's really where it goes. The family history that plays into that as well. My mom's side of the family, deeply Scottish Protestant family. My dad's side of the family, Irish Catholic.
Ooh.
So when
House divided.
when my mom brought my dad home and to meet my great grandmother, the Scottish matriarch of the family, it was you've got to really fucking make a good impression here because you're already down 10 points being fucking Catholic.
That's so crazy. It's interesting. Every day I learn a little bit more about just the generalization.
people problems.
White people problems, yeah.
Turns out everyone just hates everyone.
Yeah, it turns out it's something along those lines.
People will fucking hate each other for any fucking stupid reason.
Seriously.
But yes.
What does the TT stand for again?
I don't know. It's Touring Trial, I believe.
Touring, okay.
If I'm not necessarily
We'll run
mistaken.
with that.
But yeah, it's insanely high speeds. It is undeveloped. They're not racing on a racetrack. These are public roads that they are fucking flying.
And they're not
down
shutting down traffic
on an
for it?
extremely underdeveloped island.
They're turning up more traffic.
They put extra traffic mode on.
yeah, there is no
They
traffic.
have to fight a parade.
No, thankfully the roads are empty because one of the biggest drivers of the Isle of Man's economy is this race.
Oh, okay.
And the tourism money that it generates. So they do shut fucking everything
So
down.
it's the
for
one
it.
nice road in Isle of Man, is what you're telling me.
I guess, yeah, if you want to call it a nice
It's the most
road.
popular road in town.
But you've got guys on motorcycles flying in excess of 150 miles per hour.
Yo!
Down these narrow ass country fucking roads with these tight fucking turns. It is it's a suicide wish to race in this shit.
So what year was Takahashi-san's first...
1961.
61. Okay. This is a huge time for him.
It
you
is.
talked about his winnings in Spain, France.
Yeah, he's coming off of two class wins in other European countries. He is establishing himself and Honda as a legitimate motorcycle racing
Great
brand,
investment.
team, rider. And so, on that fateful day, the race begins, everyone takes off. Unfortunately for Kunimitsu, 2.5 miles from the start, he is in a severe crash where he suffers serious head injuries, loses consciousness, is hospitalized, and is lucky to have not died.
Did he Aaron Rodgers it?
Effectively, yeah. He was 4 plays into
Popped
the
his
season.
Achilles in the first 4 minutes of it.
And
Wow.
and most likely
what happened? Did he hit something or?
he lost control, crashed his motorcycle. It's 2 people die on average every year at this race. And like there are years where nobody dies, and then there are years where like 14
5 or
people
6
fucking die.
Oh god.
So yeah, it like, and people died the year. Like Kunimitsu was like very close to being just a statistic on that year's running of the Isle of Man.
Wow.
And so, you know, barely escaping this race with his life, he decides, like, I think I'm going to hang up the leather jacket. I think I'm done as a MotoGP
In
rider.
61,
Wow.
huh?
Yeah.
He had his come to God moment where
He was like, you know what, man? Motorcycle racing, extremely fucking dangerous.
Turns out, when you're not always winning, could be dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, even when you are winning, it's still really dangerous. But the just, you know, their RNG came out in your favor. So he decides he's going to hang it up. But you can't take the racer out the boy. Mm-hmm. So he decides in the 1960s he's going to do something safer.
He's going to add 2 wheels to it.
motorcycles.
See what happens.
4 wheels good, 2
Four
wheels.
wheels and a 4 wheels and a metal cage.
2 wheels tough, 4 wheels safe.
Absolutely. So, after retiring from motorcycling, he becomes an auto racer.
Okay.
And in the 1960s, he signs with the Nissan Prince, like sort of corporation. You have Prince, who makes the Skyline, which we talked about
Prince
in the
makes
TRE
actually
episode.
Purple Rain, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, yes, Purple Rain and 1999.
Yes, absolutely.
Formerly known as Prince.
Yeah,
He's formerly known. I mean, to be honest,
It's an God his ass.
got his ass.
Fuck you, Prince. But yes, Prince was a company that made the Skyline sports car that was then acquired by Nissan. Nissan also had racing aspirations. They made this race car called the R380. It had a 2-liter inline 6, making a whopping 217 horsepower, or like as much as like a Kia Soul makes nowadays.
Really?
But
Yeah.
it's a lot back in the day.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Car technology, like especially in the past 20 years, has like developed to a point where like all of the cool cars of like even 30 years ago, their horsepower numbers are like, really? Wow, commuter cars make that now.
And it's a lot in the land of Japan.
Yeah, no, I mean, when we were talking about the Toyota Crown that raced in 1949, I think that made it like a whopping 69 horsepower.
Nice.
Somewhere in that ballpark. So like, and that was a racing car.
I do love this speed era, like the speed racer era of auto
I love
racing.
it.
Where almost every car looks like a fucking spaceship with just a roundel number on the
It's so
front.
cool. It is so cool. Like the Jetsons really ripped off that model for everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's that retro futuristic style. It came from America. America owned and operated Japan at the time, so it came to Japan as well.
But Japan made it cool. It's just
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I love these grandstands in the Japan Grand Prix.
Yes, in the 1967 Japan Grand Prix. Part of the reason why Nissan or Prince, it's sort of a blur. Like these two companies are merging at this period of time.
We know them as Nissan.
Yes, they are Nissan nowadays.
Yeah.
In America, they came to our shores as Datsun.
Yeah. Like the dog. Ew.
Yeah. Or, well, that's Dachshund. But
It all sounds the same coming out of my mouth.
close. Absolutely. Yeah, so they signed it because Nissan at the time had a bit of a beef with Porsche. Those two one-time rivals are now
Great. Yeah.
are now bitter enemies on the
hottest of
racetrack.
rivals.
These two Axis allies now are taking out their beef with each other on the racetrack. Porsche had its 906 race car, seen by these two cars here.
Okay, your Gundams.
Yes.
It's nice.
It's
Very
the 906.
nice. Yes.
It was dominating the Japan Grand Prix, specifically this car here up out front, that was driven by the racer Tetsu Ikuzawa.
Okay.
And so Nissan's like, all right, well, let's get some of these fucking fearless motorbike racers, put them in our cars, and see if we can, make something happen. And in 1967, there was some happenings. You have in the number 10 Nissan R380 here, our boy Kunimitsu.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it really kind of becomes a two-man show pretty quickly. It's not like, it's these two guys. This is the story of this race. The people in the stands are watching this Porsche 906 driven by Tetsu and that Nissan R380 driven by Kunimitsu Takahashi. And it's like, this is the rivalry. This is your Japanese Ford versus Ferrari at the time.
As much as I do watch sports mostly for that kind of attention, it does suck to be every other guy in that race, right?
Yeah.
That's like, the press is only here for these two jabronis. I'm here because I've worked my ass off my entire career to get here. But you know what?
And
these two guys are the only guys that matter in the race. Wow.
And the only time you're going to get mentioned is if you win, and that's only because you upset one of the.
Exactly.
Oh, but those two guys didn't win. It's
Here's
just
why
like,
they
I just
didn't
brought
win.
home the gold.
Yeah.
I mean, but in motorsport, every every auto racer, you've lost more races than you've won.
Totally.
Like that is the story of every major auto racer. But it's it's on any given day with any given car, and all the conditions are just right, and you're the hero of the day of that race's narrative.
Yeah.
That's kind of one thing that's fun about motorsports is there's not a lot of dynasties. And
Really?
there's not a lot of New York Yankees or New England Patriots.
It's always just someone's time to shine.
Yeah, someone's got either the best car and a good enough driver that season to make it work. But then there's a whole off season in racing where everyone's going to catch up to your shit.
Okay.
And then if they got the better driver, never won their season next year.
Interesting.
And we learned this with TRD. I mean, the Celica was the king of Africa. While it was the top in technology, but then Mitsubishi and Subaru came along with much better cars.
Yeah.
And that's why Toyota needed to cheat to try and fucking get some wins in 1995.
Win is what it is.
I mean, if you ain't treating, you ain't trying. And
Yeah.
it's racing, and I guarantee you there's probably 80% of the cars on this fucking racetrack are cheating in some way, shape, or form. But yes, so the story of this race, though, is that Takahashi never lost, even though he decided to hang up the leather jacket, he never lost that kamikaze spirit, as he calls it.
He was never not reckless.
He was never not reckless. That motherfucker
Little
wants
Anakin Skywalker up
he
there.
wants to go fast, and he, if you ain't first, you're last.
Exactly, Ricky Bobby.
I
I was high when I said that.
as the race quickly becomes the story of these two cars, Takahashi is showing off. He's showboating. He's sort of making
doing burnouts before the
zigzagging. He's signing some lady's name.
I mean,
he's stopping to sign some lady's tits in the stands and then taking back off again.
we're engaging in hyperbole, but you're not necessarily super far off. Like, he is weaving behind Tetsu. He's flashing his lights.
Lights on at these things?
He's like trying to get in the head, like, because Tetsu isn't still a superior car.
He does that flipping in reverse and then keeps a pace with him, at keeping eye contact as he's going in reverse.
Yeah, too fast, too
He's
furious.
playing an audio recording of the other guy's mom really loud on the radio as he drives by. He's playing mind games.
What else we got?
Exactly, Ryan. He doesn't have the better machine, but he could maybe be the better driver, and he can maybe play some cerebral warfare.
Then, hey, I'm here for it.
And you know what? It kind of works. Like, he inevitably does get in Tetsu's head, and Tetsu misses a downshift going around a corner. Unfortunately, Kunimitsu is a little too close behind, and so both of their cars go off track.
Straight into the
Wait,
bars
did some
section.
jabroni win this match then?
Well, unfortunately for Kunimitsu, the R380 was slower to get started and get pitted and get cleared to start racing again. And by the time he was able to get back on the track, Tetsu and the Porsche 906 had been on the track for at least another lap. So he's a full lap behind.
Okay.
You're
The
this late in the race, you're not going to win. He pulled second. He still pulled second out of it, but he didn't get the glory.
He didn't pull second to Ketsuo, right?
Tetsu? No.
Tetsu, okay.
Tetsu Ikuzawa.
Ikuzawa.
Who continued to sort of dominate in that car for that era, in that time of Japanese racing. But a relationship was established between Kunimitsu and Nissan, and it flourished and developed. And performances like this one in his early auto racing days would earn Kunimitsu Takahashi the name of Mukon no Teiu? Teiou.
Teiu, yeah.
Yeah, no, Mukon no Teiu, which stands for, in Japanese, the uncrowned emperor. Always the bridesmaid.
What a dope name.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's fucking hard as shit.
That does. I want to get that tattooed on me right now.
I can already see the cover of the manga.
Yeah, large kanji font right there.
Blocky ass metallic fucking font.
Yeah, because of his flamboyant racing style, because of his daredevil nature, he was a fan favorite. People showed up to races to watch this dude go. But, because of some of those antics, because of that fearless nature, because of that reckless behavior, he couldn't quite get the job done and get into that winner circle. I mean, he'd get on the podium, but he can't get that top spot.
Who would you relate that to? I mean, just for all the audience that isn't quite into racing, but other sports, what would you say? Who's the uncrowned prince?
Into Buffalo Bills. Where you just
Yeah.
you keep on showing up. You keep on showing up
That's
to the big
fucking
game
good.
and just can never pull through.
That is a good one.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, moving on. Let's go. He found it. He found it.
But yes, this does move into another era of racing.
Okay.
But first, we need to talk a little bit about tire technology.
Let's go.
I like it. I like
Where's
it.
Saddam Hussein in this graph?
I don't know. Ryan's got to put him in somewhere. So here we have radial versus bias ply tires.
Okay.
Bias ply is the old form of technology. It's still utilized today. It does have its applications. It's good for heavy duty work like semi, tractor trailers, big rigs, dump trucks, things like that. It has a nice stiff,
Fat, thick.
sidewall.
Yeah.
And it is created by overlapping rubbers of labor at alternating 60-degree angles. So like here in our yellow layer, that is like a negative 60-degree angle, and then here in our green layer, we have a positive 60-degree layer.
Back to negative.
And you just keep doing that over and over.
You're doing everything but like weaving the rubber together. In a sense.
Is that why they can retread tires like that?
Exactly, Zach.
Because the meat and potatoes of it is underneath that back and forth layering. Okay.
And part of the reason why it's good for industry, I mean, you don't need to go fast. You don't need to handle well in these big machines. But, these big fucking massive people-sized tires are really fucking expensive.
Yeah.
And if you've worn away all of the rubber, like layers of rubber that the treads existed on, there's still a shitload of rubber left. So you could
a lot of meat on that
theoretically
bone still.
retread it and keep that extremely expensive tire going.
And if audience at home, if you don't understand what we mean by the retread, it's the piece on the side of the highway you constantly see, just like the big fat flaps. The whole tire of a semi or whatever is still attached to the truck, typically, unless it's a blowout. But there's a big fat layer, that top layer where the 4 lines are, that can be replaced if there's like divots or holes inside of it.
Yeah, and they're like overlapping and like layered onto one another.
Yeah.
That's why
Your
you see
tire is an onion.
But when it does when you do retread, there is more likely that it'll detread again because it's a replacement.
You've
it's not
only got
straight from the manufacturer anymore. It's now a refurbished tire.
You can do it. You can do it an amount of times.
Yeah, you can't do it
There'll
forever.
never be more rubber. You're just carving away at it.
Exactly. But yeah. So and speaking like perfectly, Zach, I really appreciate that. That's why when you see those like chunks of a semi tire blow out on the side of a freeway, it's a strip. It's like a fruit by the foot. Sort of layout. If you blow out your tire on a radial, which I have done before.
Oh yeah.
And I've done miles away from like a place to park. And you just kind of have to drive on that flat for a minute, like I had to do in my 90 Honda Accord. When the tire inevitably separates from its sidewall, it's still in one circular piece. The reason why is we have this layer of steel belts. Below.
I've seen the steel belt several times on tires on my car before.
Yeah, when you get real down close to it, and then
when you
touch
totally
your tire.
forget to check, and not only can you can't even see, you can see the whole penny when you're putting it in the tread line.
Oh yeah, and then you inevitably stab yourself on one of those steel threads. Take it from me, who's had multiple 60 mile plus per hour blowouts with a tire. It sucks. It's scary, and you might die every time it happens.
I just had one happen after I was coming home late, 3 a.m. in Texas on a highway, and I thought I didn't hear it pop. It was just the tire's time to go. Yeah, I guess I was rubbing steel on the road, and I was a mile away from my house, and I thought like, oh shit, it's like my radiator going or something. I am wonky on the road here. Then I pull off at my exit. I look. And I'm like, thank God it's just the fucking tire. I mean, if it was something real mechanical, I would be in deep shit.
You're in towing territory.
Yeah. But and then I don't know if I told you guys that the wheel well had melted to the tire.
Wait, like the dust cover in your wheel well had like heat welded to your tire?
Yes, to the tire. So
Yikes.
I couldn't. I know how to change a tire, and I was trying to yank that SOB off, and I couldn't. So I had to go to the store, get a mallet, and then bang it off.
Oh wait, no, you said wheel well. It had fused to the hub.
The
of
hub,
your
the
wheel.
hub.
Yeah.
The hubcap, or not the hubcap. What is that? The tire, the wheel, the steel wheel.
Like it's what comes off of the axle.
Yes.
It has like all your brake components. It's where your suspension components connect to the wheel, and it's also where the lug nuts come out, where you can.
You want to draw that for everybody? I'm just kidding.
Here's a wheel, and here's a piece of fucking suspension, and here's 1, 2,
Is that a
3,
Pokemon?
4 lug nuts sticking out here. And either, depending on what kind of car you either have disc brakes that connect here, or you got drum brakes that are all a big ass circle that I just drove very shittily around the whole thing. And where all of these components combine together is called a hub of your wheel. And it's also where your wheel bearing sits that helps keep the bearing that keeps the wheel from like rattling super fucking hard.
Bro,
and
I had to replace a bearing one time.
Yeah, when it goes bad, you think your car has a demon. And then
every time I lean left a little bit, the demon comes out of my tires.
Yeah, and it's also completely fucking your tire while that's happening because your tires just sort of fish slapping off the ground at rapid
I drove all the
speeds.
way to San Francisco from Seattle with a bad bearing.
Oh yeah, no, I've delivered
and back, and it was like
I delivered pizzas on a bad wheel bearing. Yeah, and inevitably, if you keep driving on a bad wheel bearing, inevitably it like deteriorates to the point where it just seizes and that wheel will no longer turn.
Oh,
didn't know that.
that's exactly what you want.
Oh yeah, no, I've run cars through their fucking paces. I know.
Welcome back to
the
Tales
worst
from
case.
the driver's seat. We're talking about cars.
Yeah, tales of Taylor just pushing hoopties beyond their fucking limits.
What are they there for if not to be put to the stress test of an American male?
Yes. So
Do SUVs usually run a bias tire?
no. Everyone's radial.
Everyone's radial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes to the detriment. Firestone had, a bad time
They had
with
bad
their radial
radials.
tires.
Yeah.
That's why you had where the Ford Exploder meat comes from. One, from its engines exploding, and two, where your tires would just pop and your shit would roll over. And then
God bless Ford.
if you were double unlucky, the shit would catch on fire. My ex's mom had a Ford Expedition that just caught on fire sitting in the driveway.
Yo.
That's
No
always
key in
fun.
it.
No key, nothing?
Nothing.
Just like it was my time.
Electrical shorts near the fuel rail just caused that shit to fucking catch.
It's the devil's car now.
What's that thing? It was when every Christian goes to heaven. When you know what I mean?
St. Peter's?
No. Move on.
No, we can got it. I'm running from a break almost. So.
It's the not a
smell
resurrection. It's the it's the day when Jesus comes in there. Everyone's like leaves and goes to heaven.
the rapture?
Rapture. Yeah. The Ford Explorer was raptured. Their expedition was raptured.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank
No.
you guys. Thanks for hanging
It was
in
a
there
very
with me.
delayed, slow rapture that also took with it many American families.
Yeah, if you park that shit in your garage.
Ford Rapture. I think that's a car that should come out.
Yeah. So now that we've discussed tires and tire technology,
And you've drawn the most
and tire
weird
accessories.
bowling alley experience I've ever seen.
Yep.
I like this. It's kind of like a mantis.
Oh yeah.
it's definitely a biblically accurate wheel and hub assembly. But yeah, so this is, Kunimitsu Takahashi. He is racing in the era of bias ply tires.
Okay.
They're not great for grip.
They're slicker, right?
And it requires you to come to very slow, you have to really slow down going into a turn. You have to be very purposeful going into your turn. Just like we talked about with Enzo Ferrari's Tazio driver of you can't just go balls to the fucking wall heading into a corner. That shit's nuts.
That's crazy.
We're now entering the late 60s, 1970s. Takahashi
gross.
Kunimitsu has developed his relationship with Nissan even further.
His signature goes so hard.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. We'll talk about that one in a second, but first we're going to focus on these two pictures here on the left.
Okay.
And Kunimitsu, he's developed enough of he can get his own kind of team going.
No shit.
He's got his team of Opama Works Miragisu. Or Miragarasu.
Sorry, that's the name of his team?
Yes, Opama Works Miragarasu.
Okay.
Is the name of this team of 3 Nissan 2000 GT Skylines. You've got Kunimitsu out here
Those two cars are on the same team.
Wait,
in the front.
You got a red, a blue, and a green.
You've got a red,
Shut
a
up.
blue, and a green.
We can't escape the weeb obligations, guys.
Who's your favorite?
Just like the Pokemans.
Who's your favorite?
Well, the one I had, blue, out front.
Red. I'm a red boy.
Driven by our hero, Kunimitsu.
Is there a yellow one way back 2 years and
Yeah,
behind
there's
it?
a yellow one way back.
Yeah, that's the one he's standing next to in that dope.
You're right, actually.
But yes, so
The Blue Angel.
Opama Works Miragarasu. Opama Works is representative of Opama, Japan, where Nissan has one of its manufacturing facilities where they were making the Skylines at the time.
Cool.
Works stands for we're a
works.
technical racing team with the blessing of Nissan at the time. And Miragarasu roughly translates into 3 crows. So his racing team is the 3 crows.
That's cool.
Get this guy a manga. Get him an anime.
Which
Get this
to
man
us,
some fake dreads and a song about a parking lot.
exactly. Thus the title. I knew someone was going to get that.
Fuck it.
And I'm glad Ryan just saw it.
No. I've been trying to find accounting
You've
crows
been looking
lyric.
for it.
I've been looking for it and just kind of it's gonna happen. It's somebody's gonna say one.
And you know what's crazy? Guess who covered that song? Sheryl Crow.
No.
Whoa.
My mind's racing about like,
Let me go get the red yarn and go from crows to crow.
As soon as those words came out of my mouth, I'm fairly certain I might be wrong. But fuck it, we're going with it.
You know who likes that song? Russell Crowe.
Hell
Definitely.
Yeah. He's a huge fan. I heard.
You know what movie that song was actually in?
Paved Paradise? Or,
Yeah, that song.
Weekend
what
at
about
Bernie's too.
You know what movie it was in?
I don't know.
The Crow.
It definitely wasn't. But you know what? I appreciate good job.
Thank you, buddy.
Good job of tying in more crow fucking mentions here.
It's the rule of 3 crows.
Which we in the West would understand as more like a Three Musketeers name.
Yeah.
It's more
Yeah,
like
yeah,
us
yeah.
3 boys. We're a racing team.
We're 3 racing boys.
Us racing 3.
The red, the blue, and the green car.
And this is their car that they're all racing is known as the Hoxuka GTR. It's the first generation of the Nissan Skyline.
Okay.
Made in collaboration with Nissan. And they are crushing races. They're oftentimes taking, if there's a top 4, the 3 of them are somewhere in the mix.
Gotcha.
They are doing a great job. They're racing all throughout the 70s, just crushing it. Kunimitsu's relationship develops super well with Nissan, so much so he is the poster boy for this car right here.
That is so sick.
The spirit of 73.
Yeah.
73 on the livery is significant. This is known as the Nissan GTR Kenmari. Better known as the Ken Mary.
The Ken Mary Jr. Number
Nissan,
24 for the Seattle Mariners.
Nissan took this sort of Beach Boys inspiration and made a commercial series featuring a young man and a young woman named Ken and Mary going on these adventures out to the shore and
that's
driving.
cool. That's
to the
cute.
countryside.
No, that's.
Was
dope.
it an American campaign?
It was not. No,
It was a Japanese campaign?
They did not make many of these cars. The OPEC oil crisis hit at this time
as
in the
it does.
1970s. So this picture is from 1972 during the Tokyo Auto Show when they're trying to advertise hey, everyone loves the fucking Skyline 2000 GTR. Look at the next one. It's even more cool. It's
so cool.
It's got a big old nose splitter. It's got big, fat, wide body fender flares. It's got a fastback instead of a notchback. And we got our most handsome, most permed hair, Farrah Fawcett-haired driver in a speed racer racing suit advertising it for us. And it's 1972. We put 73 on the livery because 73 is going to be the year.
That's when it's coming out,
drive.
baby. That's when you're going to be driving the most of it.
And this was the special race edition that never came to fruition. The GTR Ken Miri, only 179 were ever produced.
Ooh,
Wow.
a rare boy.
And some person claimed it was his first car, but that's pretty sus to me.
In the Reddit threads?
No, we'll talk about him in here in a second.
Oh, okay.
And I feel that's pretty fucking dubious considering just how rare and expensive this car was for it to be your first car. That's like saying yeah, my first car was a Lambo.
Oh,
Which is
wait, you didn't drive a Bugatti Veyron for your first car?
No, my dad's not a billionaire.
Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy.
And it's one of those things where it's I guess it would make sense if your family was rich, but yours,
Yeah.
your dad's name is not Mr. Amazon. But yes, this was the Ken Mary. Its code was the KPGC 110 GTR.
That's a lot. That's
Hell
a
yeah.
lot of name
And
for it not to be a word. You know what I mean?
To only sell 170 of these fuckers.
And so, the 3 Crows, they weren't racing this car because they didn't make many of them, and Nissan wasn't just going to give them away.
Right.
So they were still stuck in the old first-gen 2000 GTRs. But you know what? They did work throughout the 70s.
What does the R stand for? Racing?
Yeah,
Gran Turismo Racing?
pretty much.
Okay.
That's what the abbreviation is there for.
All right, sweet. Sorry.
Yeah. And Takahashi himself won the Fuji Grand Championship 300-kilometer race sometime in the 70s. I didn't write down the exact date on that race when. But yeah. and he became a crowd favorite.
Again.
Because of his driving style. Yes, he in 2 autosports.
The
motorsports.
prodigal son returns to a new sport.
Well, yes, because these Skylines had bias ply tires on them. And so all of these like Japanese Grand Touring Championships, you have people who like you go balls out in the straightaways, but when you hit the corners, you got to slow down a little bit. And you really got to, pick your turn and be very thoughtful and meticulous about it. Well, if you're young, dumb, and full of kamikaze spirit, you just fucking whip that shit as hard as you can.
You say, this is my edge. This is how I can find my edge, right?
You start skidding out of control. You nail the throttle, and you got enough technical skill and, you've got the balls to, drive your way out of it. So Kunimitsu Takahashi becomes sort of a folk racing legend in Japan at this time. Like, people are coming from all around to watch him race because not only is he winning, he's winning in style. He's fucking throwing this bitch all over the racetrack.
He's giving them a show.
And he's taking the technical deficiencies of the vehicles at the time, and he's found a way through technique to, overcome it.
Nice.
And during the 1970s, during this run of, the Three Crows era and the 2000 GT era of Takahashi's racing career, there was a young man who got on his gasoline-powered bicycle and rode 120 miles to go to Fuji Speedway to watch through the fence.
Oh my God, are we meeting our hero?
Takahashi race. Zach, I think you're calling it. What? We're about to meet our hero.
Oh my God.
There was a young boy.
There's a young boy just drifting on his electric bicycle, gas
powered. So this is like a moped effectively. It's a bicycle that has a gasoline powered engine, but when you run out of gas, it's a bike.
Okay.
Wait, they had those way back then? I thought that was a kind of a new technology. I guess it must have always been around. Like when we were talking about electric cars, that electric cars go way farther back than I've ever imagined.
Yeah, no, auto technology is both old and new constantly.
Constantly reinventing the wheel, essentially.
It's time that we meet the actual hero.
Let's talk about it.
What, he's not Mr. Perm?
Mr. Perm is gonna come back.
Mr. Perm has his place in history.
He's not going anywhere, boys. We'll catch up with him in a little bit, but right now.
Oh my God! Are we gonna have a Takahashi versus our hero moment? Because that would blow my mind.
Oh my God!
All right.
There could also be,
Dear Japan, boy, do I got a story for you.
Dear Japan.
We're gonna meet Kaiichi Tsuchiya.
Ooh.
Look at that devil may care smile.
Look at that handsome young man. So Kaiichi Tsuchiya was born on January 30th in 1956. His birthday one day after that of his hero.
Well, both Aquarius. That's crazy.
And born 16 years after his hero, Kunimitsu Takahashi. Kaiichi was born in Tomi, Nagano. So where they hosted the Winter Olympics when we were kids in 1996 when Christy Yamaguchi set all those skating performance records. That's the city he was born in.
That's so sick.
It's in
small island, am I right?
Yeah, pretty small. I think it's 45 minutes northwest of Tokyo, if I'm not mistaken. It's not in what would
I would love to know
Tokyo.
East to west on Japan. What that is like? Probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, right? You think? East to west?
I mean, if it was a straight shot, but you're going through mountains the entire way.
Very true. That's very true.
And it's funny that you should mention that because as a young boy growing up
Look at us. It's almost like we knew what you're talking about.
A mountainous region, Kaiichi would hear the squeals and the revs of the engines of the Hashiriya roaming through the mountains of the Yosui Pass nearby his native Tome Prefecture.
You'd hear the sounds of the what?
The Hashiriya, which is Japanese for street racer.
Ah, okay.
So in the 1960s, 1970s, not only is there a pro racing scene, but there is the Bozuzoku, bike culture has infiltrated its way into car culture as well, as car culture is now exploding in Japan. I mean, Nissan and Toyota and Honda are producing sports cars now. Yeah. People are learning with a set of tools in your garage, you can make this thing faster sometimes and make it handle better.
There were crafty people.
Yeah.
Crafty people that were customizing their
I mean, as soon as you start giving people cars, like people start figuring out how to make those cars go faster, turn better, and do things that they weren't initially intended.
I guess and
you get more than one person who really likes cars that much together. They're going to see whose car is faster.
Absolutely,
that is a fact. I guess it takes like people with the craftiness, because I mean, I own a car, but I have no interest in like customizing my car at any capacity. I know Taylor. I mean, you talk about these Toyotas.
I've never been much of a car modder,
but you are at least crafty enough to know how to fix pieces of your car when the time comes for them to be replaced and everything like that. But this is so interesting, and I guess it's a time and place in the culture when the technology comes. I mean, same with the Pokemon episode of the technology of gaming coming to Japan. There was a huge craze because people were interested in something, and they had that ping of interest, like a super interest. I mean, with cars too, it seems the interest was so there that all they needed was the tool, and then we're gonna deassemble this thing and find out how we can make it different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as soon as like a mechanism exists, there are people who want to take that mechanism apart, figure out how it works,
say what the hell's going on,
put it back together, and or make it better. Than it originally was. Like human history is just
it's totally that.
It's all of that. Yeah. That is how technology is developed.
I believe that's the first chapter on technology. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of humanity is
someone found fire in the wheel, and someone was like, "I'm going to contain fire and make the wheel more reliable." But yes. So as a young boy, he would watch racing on TV. His personal hero was Kunimitsu Takahashi. He rode his gasoline-powered bicycle in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s. I don't really have an exact date on it, to the Fuji Speedway to, watch through the chain link fences and, like, watch his hero in action as he was sliding his car all over the track, taking wins.
And with the process of racing, not to just take this again on another sidewalk or birdwalk, but like, were people do you think people were adapting to the drift when they saw Takahashi start doing the drift? Were they like, whoa, that's an edge? So did it become like do you think it became a part of the racing style?
It became a skill issue. Like, if you can do it, you can do it. Yeah. I mean, the same thing was happening over in America. Like, I showed a picture of 1950s Corvettes drifting. Like, so people were doing it at, like, even before, like, Takahashi was making it happen.
Okay.
And as any, like, competitive sport event, what have you, it's the risk reward. Because you're essentially sending your car into a controlled slide, and you typically don't want to be sliding at all during a race. So it's that
when you're racing a car or driving a car in general, when it's sliding out of control, it's usually not like a good thing.
It's typically not an advantage. But if you can squeak an advantage out of it, then
I mean, rally drivers at that time were doing it as well. Like, that's how you get these insane, like, hairpin turns is they know, okay, I got to throw my car this many fucking degrees, which is going to be insane. And I just got to hold it sideways. But then inevitably, like, the next turn is going to, like, the next two turns is going to open up the exact angle I need. So I'm not losing speed.
Totally.
And, like, not, braking, coming to an almost complete stop, turning around the corner. Those precious seconds count when you're at.
So then I guess Takahashi's place in all of the scheme of drifting was he's just the rock star of it, right?
Yeah,
he's pretty big rock star.
He's just a reckless kid.
And it's cool. He doesn't. It's a skill issue, but he makes it cool.
I don't feel like I'm divulging anything if anyone knows even a little bit about cars. Like, Keiichi Tsuchiya is known as the father of drifting.
Okay.
Really?
But Takahashi would be the godfather or grandfather of drifting.
Well, the uncrowned Prince, King, was
the
it?
uncrowned emperor.
Emperor, okay.
That was mostly to his racing career.
Right,
but no, he
the name fits.
He was just the guy that had had the cojones enough to, like, really whip that fucking skyline around that racetrack.
Imagining him just smoking a cigarette while doing it too.
Everyone's ripping so many heaters all the time.
Dude, darts aplenty on the sidelines of that track.
I will. Well, there'll be a darts reference sometime down the line, but just know everyone's ripping heaters nonstop all the time, forever in this to this day. But yes, so Keiichi revered Takahashi and his drifting, reckless driving style. And before he could legally drive, his father, who owned an auto parts business,
nice, Nepotism. Ugh.
recruited his son to drive a probably Nissan Sunny or a B110 car, which was just like the family vehicle, to deliver those parts out to like whoever needed them
As fast as you can, kid.
Yeah. And yeah, he had to learn how to drive smoothly because one, he probably shouldn't have been on the road. He's a little young. He legally couldn't have his license. And two, car parts are really fucking heavy. And if you just start throwing that shit around in the trunk, you're going to start denting the shit out of your dad's car. And he's going to be really pissed when you get home.
Oh, no.
He's not going to give you any darts.
He's not going to let you smoke a whole pack of darts tonight.
No. But yeah, so he made deliveries for the family business, cast iron, like car parts that he would deliver all
God,
throughout.
that must be heavy. Cast iron? Yo.
And so by the time he
I wonder they had such low horsepower, dude. They're heavy as shit.
Yeah. I mean, you can have high horsepower and still be heavy.
I was gonna say, no wonder why he drifted if he had all these heavy ass car parts.
That boy was scooting in the back.
But yeah, he was running through like these country roads, through mountain passes. He had like seen Takahashi's driving style. And he learned to practice it himself. And he always aspired to he also not only looked up to Takahashi, he looked up to the Hashiriya, like the cars he was hearing screaming through the Yasui Pass near his home, like through his window at night as a child and as a teenager.
Singing him to sleep.
But Kaiichi Tsuchiya is a smart man. He understood that, he lives near a place that is not super safe to be driving really fast. So when he gets his license on the weekends, when he's not at school or delivering for the family business, he's driving out to the countryside and practicing driving.
Okay.
For 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
He spends 4 years, an entire high school or college career,
Training.
just out on the country roads by himself training. And it goes pretty good. There was one near fatal wreck in the process. But
only one.
By the time he's ready,
hey,
our boy is been forged in fire.
I have seen that image on the left, and I believe I made the Mulholland Drive joke already.
Yeah. I had to bring it back.
Yeah, that's the reference point. Yeah.
So, yes, these are some local raceways that are not legally raceways in the area where Kaiichi Tsuchiya grew up. They're called roads.
Yeah, that actually, Yasui Pass, that looks like a real defect in city skylines.
Yeah.
When I'm trying to build a city.
Like,
you put that little crosswalk right there. God.
You can smooth that shit out.
Yeah.
That'll buff
There's
out.
a mod for that. Yeah.
God, it's like fucking driving in Seattle. The fucking incline on this hill that you would have to start off in first gear to get onto this highway where there's a bunch of fucking teenagers just bolting down the fucking highway, and you have to try and make a left fucking turn onto it if you're going this way. Well, fucking feathering your clutch enough to I recently drove my 4Runner in Seattle from the waterfront back to the freeway and remember fuck, this sucks
ass.
It sucks so
I've
fucking
been roped
hard.
into driving to Seattle so much because my friends had stick shifts and come on, you don't want to ride in a stick shift in Seattle, do you? I'm I guess I'll drive.
Yeah, I mean, last night, it was yeah, we're taking your car. It's the automatic and it has air conditioning. We're going to fucking Seattle.
Is that why I drove the Prism here? Prism has AC?
No, it does not.
Oh, bummer.
I sweat my ass off. This shirt was translucent on my back on my way here. It's just now dried up.
Oh, man.
But yes. So, Kaiichi...
He's king of the mountain, isn't he?
So he became what was known when he finally was ready to make his debut during doing what's called touge driving. Touge is these mountain pass roads. It's the Japanese term for it. And, you have teenagers, 20-somethings, all these Hashiriya street racers where,
it's the UEFA
driving,
competition.
Well, driving in the city, there's cops there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. You're a lot more likely to get caught. And
Try that in a small town.
Yeah. You're not necessarily like the Midnight Club, who have these insanely expensive, super fast cars that the cops can't keep up with. You're driving cars.
Yeah.
Cars
Your
that
mom's
people can
Volvo.
afford. Yeah.
Well, and you can't even try this in a small town because once you go rural, that's there's still cars driving on those roads. But I assume it's like, mountain pass, windy ass road. Like, maybe there's a car every couple minutes.
Well, that's
we
why
can get away with it.
This is why these races typically occurred at night when there are less cars on the road. So there's a less likelihood.
Origins of the culture, I guess.
That you're going to impact like drivers. Like, you don't really want to like.
Well, you're not doing it to hurt people. You're doing it for the thrill of the race. And
Yeah, the Midnight Club.
you don't want bystanders there, right?
The Midnight Club, the legendary street racing scene of Tokyo at the time and into the 80s and 90s, they had a tryout process to make sure that you weren't just some fuckhead who couldn't like handle his shit to run with them, because the last thing they wanted was like some piece of shit causing an auto accident and then ruining the good time for everyone else by drawing more public scrutiny and like governmental attention to your illicit activities.
Yeah. You gotta be really secretive about stuff like that, or like be very careful.
And there's always, some asshole who ruins everyone's good time, but it's the 70s, and so everything's fucking gravy, baby.
Mahalo, baby.
But yes, so Kaiichi was a phenom by the time he hit the Touge passes at like roughly 20 years old. He'd been spending 4 years like hardcore honing his skills. And he was ready. He had a Skyline 2000 GT, same car that his hero was driving.
Nice.
15 years ago when he was riding his motorized bicycle out to go watch those races. It's a used car. You're a young man. You don't got a lot of money. You got a little bit of money from delivering parts for your dad's business. So you get that car. It's now a 15-year-old used car, but you've been honing your craft.
Crazy. Think about.
And just couldn't be touched. I mean, he not only like owned the Usui Pass, which was like his local mountain road, like drivers from across the Kanto region of Japan, which is where this takes place, much like the first Pokemon game, to continue to tie this shit in.
Yeah.
God, weebs.
Other drivers from other regions, specifically Mount Haruna here, would come and they would, challenge Kaiichi and his friends on the Usui Pass, and they would drive out to Mount Haruna and like challenge them on their passes. I just have a picture here. Hashiria Revs for Walker. It's just a group of street racers getting it done down.
Are there any Revs for Walker bumper stickers left?
There always could be.
Yeah, you could always do a reprint of those. That would be a hilarious first merchandise from Tales from the Slide Deck is the Revs for Walker Resurgent bumper stickers.
I'd put one on the Prism.
Oh, I think I have one somewhere.
I can only imagine.
It's beautiful and graphic design, by the way, Ryan.
I can only imagine my 1990 Honda Accord is still like alive and kicking somewhere with someone. So ostensibly there's still one left on the road. Sure. Because that car would never die. I never changed its oil in like 4 years, and it refused to fucking quit.
I had one at my desk for a long time, but it's got to be in a box somewhere.
But yeah. So Kaiichi quickly develops a reputation of like just, this unbeatable driver X who showed up out of nowhere and just starts dominating everything. And word makes its way down the mountains.
No kidding.
To actual
to the valleys.
To the valleys.
To the sea.
From the river to the sea. To the cities even. And there are, actual racing events and companies that sponsorship racers, and they hear word of this phenom kid who's just fucking lighting it up in the mountain passes. And in 1977 they ask him like, hey, you want to go legit?
You want a job doing what you do?
We'll sponsor you. We'll pay for the shit.
You want a scholarship, bro?
We'll kind of, pay for some stuff. We'll help you get your competition license. You kind of have to find a car that meets like the class of races that you're going to be racing in the Fuji Freshman Series. But like, we'll provide you with like a little bit of money. You're still kind of mostly on your own. It's your car. You got to buy the car. Yeah. You got to like fix it up and like tune it and everything like that. It's effectively the NCAA of Japanese auto racing.
It's your ass, basically. You wreck that car.
That's the Fuji Freshman Series. And so
oh, cute.
Kaiichi Tsuchiya begins his racing career in 1977. And he races for several years in the Fuji Freshman Series using working class people's cars.
Wow.
This is, the car that he was delivering parts in for his dad's business, the Nissan B110 Sunny. Nowadays, a super valuable car just because there's not many of them left on the road because a lot of people are racing them and crashing them and shit like that.
Yeah.
Like the muscle cars of our dad's generation. Also, very cool that I want to point out this, the Watanabe wheels on this car, which were like super commonplace in the 70s and 80s and even into like the 90s a little bit. Insanely fucking expensive.
What
now.
are Watanabe wheels?
Watanabe is just an car part, like aftermarket car parts manufacturer, and they made rims and they made these cool Watanabe rims here that we'll see a reference to at some point down the line. And nowadays, like if you want these as an American, 30, 40 years later. Oh God, the money! Like a pair of these rims cost you so much. But like these, Fuji Freshman Series, all of these cars, they're super low power. They're common cars that kind of everyone can like get into. Whether you have a little bit of money to get yourself started, or you have like sponsorships who can give you a little bit of money, like Kaiichi was able to. But he raced and he was doing good. He was winning some races. He was holding on. He was doing well enough to keep his racing career going, keeping the sponsorships there with enough checks to keep this hobby profession. He's in this gray area betwixt the two. He's not quite really a pro racer yet because he's
he's doing it for money.
It ain't paying the bills. It may be enough to pay your car bills, but you still have to eat. You still got to find somewhere to fucking
live. You still have
live.
to have like a day job, basically.
Yeah. You still got to do shit. But, he was racing these cars. The other car here that I haven't mentioned yet is our KP61 Toyota Starlet. Basically, Toyota had the Crown, which is its first car for the people. The second car that they had was the Toyota Publica. And
a car for the public.
Yeah, exactly. Shocking, right? And then its sort of next Digimon evolution was the Publica Starlet.
Okay.
We did inevitably get Starlets here in America. They weren't super popular. This was still the era of like, why would I want this like cheap, shitty Japanese car?
Yeah.
Those were the people who did Pearl Harbor sort of philosophy.
The racism era.
And then this particular model here too, you can see we got some fucking beefy racing tires. We got GTS here.
Small clearance on those on the body to the tires.
I mean, the lower your car is to the ground, the less body roll it has when you're throwing it through corners. Yes. You want to, and this is a front wheel drive car as well, so this isn't rear wheel drive, so it doesn't drift good. It's all of your power and your steering is coming from like the same place. You can't steer with the power coming from the back.
Right.
Like I discussed
the
earlier,
maneuvering is awkward.
You want to drift one of these, you need your McDonald's trays. But Kaiichi, he did just well enough in the races that he was able to like come forth to his sponsors and said like, hey, I would like some money to be able to buy like a newer, better car. Like all of these cars are like less than 100 horsepower. These like 80, 90 horsepower cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm doing all right in these races, but I really want to like kind of step it up. I want to get into like better series of races and develop my career.
Get to that next level, huh?
Exactly. So his sponsors made a deal with him. If he won outright the class in the Fuji Freshman Series, they would provide him with the funds to buy a new car.
Interesting.
Challenge
the stakes
accepted.
are pretty high
Yeah.
here.
And so he's been racing for like 7 years at this point in the Fuji Freshman Series with these cars. And in 1983, he wins the whole fucking shebang back.
No shit. Well,
He
how
wins
long
the
after
freshman
the
series.
bet or like the deal was that?
This is like 1982, 83. He's been asking for a little while, and they make the deal like, all right, finally, like, what, you're doing all right. We can maybe make some money off of you by having you race a car that has like our logo on the side of it. So yeah, okay, here, win the whole thing, become the championship of the Fuji Freshman Series, and we'll give you some money to go out and buy a car.
Interesting.
So he did.
This feels a lot like the skateboarding road to fame where you're just a skateboarder, right? You're doing your skateboard things, and then you get sponsored by a small shop. They don't give you much. They just we'll give you some wheels, parts, maybe one deck a year or something.
Stickers to put on
you
the
go
side of your
through about
helmet.
12 to 15 decks a year if you're a heavy skater, but they'll throw you one or two. And then when you do get sponsored by a bigger deal, they're like, we'll give you a deck. We'll give you decks, but you still got to get to all these different competitions on your own dime, right? You got to pay to get there. You got to fly to get there. And then eventually the main one, the Tampa Pro-Am is the one. If you win that, then you get like a pro sponsorship, and then you get your own signature kind of board. Then you get to be flown by the company to all these different events to show off, to showcase you're one of their pros. You're one of their guys.
Finally made it.
You're not only like getting your hobby paid for, you're actually getting paid to do that thing that you love to do.
Exactly. And after all that pain, after all that like forking the load from your own pocket.
After all those parts delivered.
Yeah. I mean, it was necessarily around this time, like remembering, speaking of like pro skating, I remember Tony Hawk talking about like, when did you become a pro skater? It was when he was entering a tournament. He'd been doing it for a while, and there was a checkbox on the entry form where you amateur or pro. And he just decided one day, okay, I'll check the pro box. I've been doing this for a while. And that was like the unceremonious like pro skater debut of Tony Hawk. And it was still like, working a regular man's job to like keep all of his equipment going and like get to the places he needed to be.
It's just a label at a certain point.
And I mean, at a certain point too, like whatever your hobby is has to be generating enough money for people to be actually like, okay, we can give you all your equipment and pay you a salary to perform for us and be at the places we need you to be. So 1983, he wins the Fuji Freshman Class Series, and in 1984, he's able to purchase a new car. With
he was
the
in the
money
freshman
that he's
class
offered.
for like several years.
Yeah. I mean, he was also never really left the mountains, and at this point,
he didn't get out of the Kanto region.
Well, I mean, if he's doing okay to like good success in like the actual races, but you're a phenom in the mountains, you can't take the mountains out of that guy.
Small pond, big fish.
And also, street racing, it's illegal already, so you might as well do some other shit like gamble, maybe. Put some fucking yen down on who's going to be the first down the mountain. Yeah. And if you got some confidence and skill, you might as well throw some yen on yourself. That can help fund your like your semi-pro hobby.
Yen on yourself is actually what my next episode's about.
Hell yeah. Just fucking being covered in yen, American Beauty style, like rose petals. So, in 1984, Kaiichi goes out and he finds that next car, and it begins a lifelong love affair.
No!
Look at you!
Eurobeat intensifies.
Oh my god.
Yes. At this point in time, Toyota has been making the Corolla for like 20-some years at this point in time, as well as the Sprinter, which we've talked about in the Numi episode. The Corolla is going to be somewhat of a glue that holds several of my episodes together. I've decided,
why not?
rather than doing a deep dive into that one car model,
it's the spider in the middle of the web.
It was either the one series that I went fucking insane making because of how far
we
the
have to do like a
webs
cabin
reach.
retreat to do that whole
it's
episode.
Hundo slides.
I instead of being like, I'll just make several episodes and then the Corolla's going to show up and like it all makes sense from there. But yes, this is the AE86. The Corolla always had an A series engine, thus the A in AE. The chassis code for Corollas, as we discussed in Numi, I drive an E100 Toyota Sprinter, aka the Geo Prism. So E is your chassis code, and 86 was just the 86th iteration of the Corolla. It's the random number that they decided to assign to that particular engine chassis combination. They also, at the same time, also made an AE85, because at this time, in America, Japan...
Well, they had to make an 85 before an 86, am I right?
Well, they were simultaneous.
No.
Yeah. At this time in Japan and in America, and even less so in Europe, but like front-wheel drive cars are becoming much more commonplace, especially for like commuter cars like the Toyota Corolla. At this point in time, many of the like Japanese like commuter cars, like the B110 Sunny, the Datsun 510, the Toyota like Corolla at this point in time has even like they're moving to front-wheel drive layouts. The Toyota Celica at this point is a 1 year away from moving to a front-wheel drive layout, and then the Supra takes on the like legacy of a rear-wheel drive sports car.
Do you know what is the advantage of that for? Is it a consumer thing? Is it just a price point thing, an economic thing?
Yeah, I mean, front-wheel drive is more economical. It's cheaper. It's less parts. You have a transaxle.
Less weight?
It does reduce weight a little bit. It also, for most people, like, it took me a long time in owning some cars that have rear-wheel drive capabilities to actually feel the difference. Like, if you don't really know, if you've only ever driven like a front-wheel drive car, and then you get behind the wheel of a rear-wheel drive car, and you're just driving it like a car, like just to get from point A to point B, doing the speed limit and everything, it really doesn't feel different.
It's the majority of people that drive cars
exactly,
do, right? So it's like, if it's an advantage for the company to make a cheaper version of that car just by having the power come from the front.
Yeah, it's also more fuel efficient. You're generating like having
your energy source,
the transmission and the axle closer to the engine, like having the point of which like the power meets the road, be closer to the engine than a rear wheel drive where it has to go from the motor to the like in a front wheel drive it has to go
parasitic loss again.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, so you're making a more fuel efficient vehicle. We're coming out of the 70s gas crisis. And so, the name of the game is to make a fuel-efficient vehile.
You only got to look at half the car when you're trying to fix it.
Yeah.
If there's a problem, it's probably in the front half.
Unless you puncture your gas tank like I did on my Geo Prism.
Maybe it's in the back half.
Why didn't they move the gas to the front? I mean, like, is that the next step in cars?
Because you don't really want the gas happening where the boom happens.
Oh, there you go.
You usually want to make that as far away as possible. The Ferrari, they put the engine right where the gas usually is, and that's why the Testarossa is known for burning to the fucking ground.
It's now the Toasterossa.
Yeah, like there's a lot of rear engine, like mid-engine sports cars where like your gas and your fucking engine, like where the boom and the heat are happening, are pretty close to each other. Those cars tend to burn down.
That's a great lesson to learn, I guess.
Like a Ford Expedition in a driveway.
Yeah, just a Ford Rapture.
Yes. So, the AE86 launched simultaneously with the AE85.
What tongue twister? 8086?
Yeah.
I've thankfully have been saying it for a long time.
AE86.
It kind of like a gigik flows off of my tongue.
It does, yeah.
But so these were launched simultaneously. The A85 Corolla is sort of, your beginning of the front-wheel drive Corolla that we all know now to be the, accountant, data entry guy's car that you use to get to and from work. It doesn't exciting. It isn't sexy. It's efficient. It's reliable. And it does its job.
Can I say I hate the scoop back, the slanted back in the...
You don't like the hatchback?
Well, I like hatchbacks, like my Scion is a hatchback, but I hate that evolution of car.
Your Scion
CRX.
is a whole new, different kind of monster called the box.
I know, yeah.
It does have a rear hatch, but it's not necessarily what I would call a hatchback.
Really?
I like the angle. I like the angle from your windshield to your slope back, where it's almost equal.
Mm-hmm.
Like it usually.
It's just
usually
too
I find
smushed.
this era of cars ugly, but I love me an AE86.
Because I will put at the top of my car design list the DeLorean, and that is a slanted back. But it is a long, stretched out version where this feels like it's
also a mid-engine and could have that proclivity of catching on fire.
Yeah, I like danger.
There were certain models, like you could get a AE86 Corolla in Japan. Or the Sprinter, as we're seeing here. In America, it was sold as the Corolla, and you had two models. You had the SR5, which was just, once again, a badge they put on shit. It was on Tacoma, or it was on Toyota Hiluxes. It was on 4Runners. It's on
Really?
Tundras.
Did it mean anything though, or is it
It's Sports Rally 5 speed,
Cool.
but like there's automatic transmission versions of these vehicles.
All right.
In fact, it's more common to have an automatic transmission than it is a manual after the mid 90s with an SR5 version of a vehicle. And it's like, even to this day, like it's your lowest model of Tacoma or 4Runner. Like the badge continues to live on.
SR5, what is it?
SR5, yes.
Okay.
Sport Rally 5 speed.
State Route 5,
Yeah.
But
And
Trueno, the finale of this title here.
Yes.
Trueno? Why is that?
Trueno?
Trueno?
Treno.
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 Dominic
Like the
Trueno.
Resner.
Kind of. It's actually
Yes.
It's,
yes.
It's Latin for thunder,
Ooh.
Oh.
and there was a counterpoint to it.
How do you get thunder? I guess there's T's. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, there was also the Trueno. Really, its only difference from its counterpart, the Levin, which is Latin for lightning, is the front fascia.
Okay.
The Trueno, you get them motherfucking pop-up headlights.
I love them.
Oh, the Winkies.
In 11, you get like fixed molded like glass headlights that are just mounted into the front grille.
But the badge on the front, is that the car? Like that's the maker? Is Trueno?
No. It's a
Toyota,
It's the
right?
model. Yeah, it's a Toyota.
Have you ever seen that? That's an anomaly, right? In the
A
scheme
little
of
bit.
like
You would think
car
that-
badges.
You would think the car name would be something on the back.
Right, that's what that's what we
it's
typically see.
no
Right?
different than seeing like LE on the back of a Camry or XLE on the nicer version of a Camry.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it's just
I treat the front as like the
Yeah.
front of a baseball jersey.
Yeah, but
That's
they
the
don't-
team name or the city. All right, we're either getting
just
getting
don't-
Toyota on the front.
They don't
we're
do this
getting-
anymore.
Yeah, we're getting the name of the team on the back or something. We're
There's
getting
also
the
a tiny Trueno back here as well.
double
Yeah, no,
badge.
And there's
Oh,
one
that
on the
makes
there's one
sense.
on the hatch on the rear hatch
Oh
as
my
well.
God, so full of themselves. Why don't
But,
they brand their name on it?
It insists upon itself. It goes, this is a Toyota.
That's,
already know it's a
that's pretty
Toyota.
funny. That's actually good. Yeah.
This is a Toyota. It's a Trueno though.
Also, once again, we're seeing these Watanabe wheels here.
Okay.
Actually, I don't even know these are Watanabes. I think these are rims
If
that
you
are
would-
actually like copying. They're aping Watanabe.
If you would have told me those were 4 spares, I would have believed you too.
Yeah. I mean, you got your like 12 spoke, I think is maybe 14, 15, 16 spoke wheels. They're iconic to this period of time of like this era of Japanese street racing. An era where like, yes, you had people who had a lot of money. They were the Midnight Club, but you also had just your boys. The working class, the young, the youthful like movement up in the Tugays or out in the streets, modifying their cars and racing them despite the illegality of it all. But yes, the AE86 kept its rear-wheel drive platform. It continued to be the sport version of the Toyota Corolla.
Gotcha.
We got that here in America.
Sport.
We had an SR5 A86 Corolla or a GTS, which was slightly sportier. It came with a 4AGE engine. It had the precision front rear weight balance, a McPherson strut suspension up front, which gave you a lot of nimbleness in the front wheels, being able to turn and the room that you had available to move your wheels to point your car in a direction. But it also had a 4-link live coil suspension in the rear, which is a little bit more old school in terms of like suspension technology, but it was a proven format. So Toyota chose to utilize it in terms of like it keeps costs down and like what you got, and it also helps keep those rear wheels like planted on the road when you're trying to get your car sideways. Like if the wheels that are providing the power not touching the road is not a good thing ever. It also had all-wheel disc brakes, which was for the 80s a relatively like uncommon feature on a car.
Wow.
Like my car is 14 or 12 years older or newer than the Prism and my 4Runner, which is 15 years newer, and they still have rear-wheel like drum brakes.
All 4 tires could brake at the same time.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's still how it works, regardless of whether it's disc or drums. But disc brakes are like quicker and more responsive, and they're better at slowing down a car. That's why like most cars usually have like rear wheel drums and front wheel discs, because like all of the power is coming from the front anyway, so that's the part you want to slow down faster, and the rear is just more helping the car slow down. So you use the cheaper alternative of a drum brake. Yes, and then it also had a T50 5-speed transmission all the way from 1984 to 1986 or 7. This car was not offered with an automatic transmission. It was a driver's car. And it was the sporty option when you went to a Toyota dealership. Like you would see your A85s.
The ones meant for your salary men or your A85s.
Yeah.
And then something like this is like, no, you're an enthusiast.
You know what you're doing over here.
You want a blocky little 80s Winky Mobile too, don't you?
Yes.
Vroom, vroom.
Absolutely. And, you know, this is the car that he bought. It's an icon. So much so that, like, because of the relationship that Keiichi Tsuchiya and this particular car, the A86 Terreno or Levin, he drove both, had, it has absolutely fucking wrecked the market here in the modern day. In 2022, a Toyota Corolla GTS, the American version, so left-hand drive, car, it was low miles, it was red. It went on the car auction site Bring a Trailer, and it sold for $40,000 fucking dollars.
No shit.
Jesus Christ.
It was an almost 40-year-old Toyota commuter.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it sold for more than like the current equivalent
of a Corolla
of the Toyota, like of it's like the car that referenced it, the Toyota 8,
its great grandchild,
the Toyota GT86, which is its name is referencing this car. Still brand new. You could buy the fully loaded option for the mid-30s, and this one was going for $40,000.
Well, it's like,
but not even mint too, right? Like driven.
It's a used Toyota. Like, it had low miles. It had been sitting in a garage somewhere.
It's not rusted to shit with
no,
400,000
it was like
miles.
It was a Cali-owned car, not a speck of rust on it. The paint looks just as good as the day that it was bought from the dealership.
Wow.
It had been sitting in a heated and cooled garage somewhere, so it had been taken very well care of. But still, it's a goddamn, like, 37-year-old Toyota that was, like, bought for like $2,500 in 1985.
Wow.
As some like middle management's commuter car.
Well, this body and era is iconic, as you've been saying. I mean, if you were to look in the dictionary definition of drifting, it's you're either going to see a live action version of this or one animated in the late 90s.
We'll get to that. But we need to build the legend of it. We need to get a reason as to why these cars have become so wildly like unaffordable. And so Keiichi has his A86 and he's ready to go racing with it. And boy does he race. Lightning and thunder,
fast.
Levin and Trueno. So Keiichi has his own personal A86 that he has just for himself in a garage.
That he bought with his
somewhere.
own money?
Yeah. No, he was a fan of the car. And he knew that he wanted it for his race car, and he knew he wanted one for his own that, you know, didn't necessarily belong to him. It belonged to his sponsors. Mm-hmm. And so here we have his A86 Levin. It's a 1984 Toyota Corolla A86 GTS Levin. It doesn't have the pop-up headlights. It has the fixed headlights. But because you're racing legit, you're racing during the day.
Yeah.
You have no need for headlights.
Yeah.
And so your headlights are now real estate for which the sponsors can continue to advertise on the car.
It's free real estate.
We gotta throw something there.
This car was known as the Carrot, or as we see here in this shot here, very small, the Carrot Flashpoint. They even called it. Advan, their livery was red and black, and they used a chevron design or a triangle, so people sort of jokingly began to call it like the Carrot. Even leading up into the 80s, and to the point that they embraced it. By the time he was racing the Advan A86, they put it on the fucking livery.
I do love these 80s ass red stripes.
These are
all
sick.
of them. I mean, even if it's like, you know, with your bottom middle
Synthwave
picture.
lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, just fading into the red or
if like the 50s and 60s brought us like retro futurism,
Yeah.
there is something about like the mid to late 80s and 90s where like America is like technological suppliers had completely fallen off the face of the map, and we got like a more Blade Runner retro futurism out of like the technology and vehicles and machines that we were getting from Japan. And this car's livery is like the embodiment of
Cyberpunk
that.
as fuck.
Like if you think about like a stereo equipment that has like felt and wood still, but it also has like these like digital
Like stripes that
like
crisscross.
screens and like gauges and everything that you're like, man, this is what like as a kid you were looking at, like this is what it's going to be like when I'm an adult in like the 2010s and 2020s. Like this is how technology is going to look.
I think the kids are calling it cassette punk. Like an alien
okay.
Blade Runner kind of where
Yeah.
everything's still analog, but
DOS,
but
DOS
on the
computers and
cusp of
stuff.
digital.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So our boy has met his car. A lifelong love affair has begun, and boy, oh boy, did Kaiichi show up and show out for the sponsors who provided him the money. In 1984, he raced his last year in the Fuji Freshman Series before making it up to the big leagues, and he won 6 races.
in a
the
year.
Fuji
It was a big
Freshman
year.
Series. It was. He won a lot of races, and you know, who knows? I can't find a ton of information as like how many races did he race that year.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
There's not a lot.
You only,
like,
the W's are all that matters.
yeah.
You know?
So he might have batted 1,000. I
Right,
don't know.
right.
He might have only batted .06. Who the fuck knows?
It might have been a busy year around Japan for him, but
But yes, so he came out and dominated. And in 1985, he won the whole class in the touring car championship.
no shit.
Nice.
This motherfucker, like, I presume, like, that's why I said maybe in the Fuji Freshman he wasn't racing the whole series in the A86. He might have gotten that a little later in the game and then showed up and showed out. But yes, in 85, he wins the entire class in the touring car championship. And he is winning by a lot.
Oh, no shit.
He's kicking ass.
Is
he taking names as well?
He is. He so much so that he is so far ahead of the competition. He's on radial tires now, mind you. Like, this technology is caught up.
Yep.
You don't need to necessarily drift. Your tires have grip.
I
and
forgot
stick
drifting was the main product of this.
of like
episode.
getting around. Yeah. He didn't need to drift. He was just so far ahead of the competition
He
in
was
these
having
races.
fun with them?
He was realizing
He was
I'm-
tossing the shrew in the air because he's caught it already.
Exactly. He realized I'm creating a boring product if I'm this far ahead of the competition.
He had seen this showman for so long.
People need a reason to put their asses in the seats, and if I'm just absolutely out here fucking dick stomping everyone, the people in the seats are going to go down, and then
boring.
my money to race is going to go down as well. So he just starts fucking drifting for fun. Because he's so fucking far ahead of
Drifting
everyone.
from first place.
Yeah, he's just way ahead of everyone.
He's
and
showboating.
he just starts taking the corners sideways like we see.
To be that man, I want to
here.
snap the Skulls can, but as the person behind him, I want to like shoot that guy's tires out. That is like to see that happening.
I can only
after you've been
imagine
trying so hard.
His racing team, just some fucking OG-chan just yelling into a headset. No!
Dude, it's the celebration before we've actually entered the end zone kind of thing, you know?
And he kept scoring. It wasn't like it went bad. Like he made it
Nothing
across.
bad happened from it at all.
He made it across the goal line, and it pissed people off so bad. Nismo, Nissan's racing division, who was also putting out racers and cars in this class, had him investigated.
Yo.
They're like, he has to be fucking cheating. He can't be that fucking far ahead.
It's one thing to beat us, but it's another thing to be showboating against us, so that means 3, he's cheating.
He
gotta
has
be
to be
cheating.
fucking cheating. And I can't say whether he was or wasn't, but
hey,
Racing is cheating.
if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
But, you know, the Japanese Touring Car Championship found no wrongdoing.
No shit.
He was just like, no, he's just good, and he's a jerk, kind of.
No, that's just a quirked up Japanese boy.
And he became, you know, like, he was a fan favorite at the time. And his exploits were expanding out also at this point in time in like the 1980s in like sort of America and Japan and the world abroad. Like zine culture is really fucking taking off. And there is a magazine called Carboy.
Okay.
Very like erotic sounding. I understand.
does.
I'm intrigued.
But you know,
Here we are, 2024, looking at a magazine from 1980.
What's this, a Woods magazine we found?
Ooh.
but
The Woods magazines.
yeah, no. Thankfully, there was just pictures of cars. Maybe some sexy ladies. Who the fuck knows? There's always pictures of sexy ladies in car magazines. I would know some of my formative memories of understanding what a sexy lady was looking at my dad's car magazines. And Carboy gave him the nickname of Dorikin,
Okay.
the title of this episode.
Absolutely.
And if you were to translate it from Japanese to English, it means Drift King.
Drift King.
Oh, it's a katakana Dorikin.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
It's sort of a like Japanglish
Yes.
version of
Romanized
of the name.
Japanese.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So, you know, his star is on the rise. He is, you know, he's making a name for himself. He's winning races. He's getting money for his sponsors. He's getting money in return as a racer. And he's, you know, getting recognition from the like media surrounding Japanese auto racing. But it isn't the only attention he's getting from Japanese racing media. Because, like I had said earlier, during his time during the freshman series, he never left the two gays. Even
Right.
while he's doing this, he's still
On the mountain.
illegal street racing on the
Oh,
mountain.
really?
Yeah. He's still like taking names. He'll take them whatever. He'll punch your card wherever you are.
I'll take your pink
If
slip.
it's a Thursday night, he's up there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Keeping
And
some other kid up with his screeches and his brops.
he's
Yeah.
inspiring the next generation, just like he was inspired himself as a child. And it wasn't necessarily his like on the track exploits, but his time up in the two gays that drew the attention of.
Carboys.
But when you say it like that, Zach.
They are car boys. Here we have our boy as an adult now.
No
this
way.
is Kaiichi Tsuchiya.
Look at him.
And standing next to him is a bit of a lifelong friend slash business partner slash, you know, Hashiriya Bon Vivant racer himself. His name is Daijiro Gogo Inada.
Okay.
He has the nickname Go-Go, or is that actually...
That's his nickname. No,
Okay.
that's his nickname. It's not
quote,
his...
quotation mark, go.
Yes. Yeah. Daijiro Gogo Inada. And he is a street racer himself, just like Kaiichi Tsuchiya. And he's a car modder, and he runs his own zine. In 1981,
Zines are
he
heavy.
ran his first edition of Option magazine.
Love that font.
Love
the
it.
empire
That's sick.
that Inada built. This is the first issue of Option magazine, and it contained the extremely controversial for the time Japanese cover of a dude. Like, this is a backseat shot of a cameraman sitting in the backseat of a car, taking a picture through the windshield and of like the dash and interior
Controversial.
of a street race. Like, this is an active crime happening. And then he's publishing a magazine in hyper-conservative, follow-the-rules Japan.
That's interesting.
That's how you sell magazines. You break that mold.
That's how you sell magazines to the rebellious youth of Japan.
Yes.
And Daijiro Inada, he was a street racer himself. He didn't necessarily have the same like legitimate racer aspirations as a Kaiichi Tsuchiya. But what he did have was like a personal campaign to bring like car modifications to Japan in legality. At the time, because of like Bozuzoku, like biker culture and the modifications, and sort of like by the 80s, like car mods are illegal in Japan. Like,
They're not just stigmatized. They're full on.
it's like
illegal.
tattoos on a person. It carries the social stigma to it of like, oh, you are an outlaw. You don't exist within like the rules.
Places don't carry aftermarket parts.
I mean,
People
shops
don't
will
buy
do it and everything like that, but it's still like you're going to get hassled by like the powers that be if your car is modified. That's part of the reason why these modified cars race on like country roads at night.
Yeah.
Less cops around to fucking give you shit for doing it. And, you know, Inada thinks that, you know, like if I can continue to popularize this movement, I can sort of create a culture shift. I can, you know, sort of bring this to the forefront and create like a critical.
It's not taboo anymore.
create a critical mass point where like if enough people think this is shit's cool, like inevitably
openly can say like this shit's cool. Then
You've
it's like
broken that stigma.
Yeah, stigma exactly.
There's only if only so many like the cops can only like pull over and arrest so many teenagers in one night, and then they'll just inevitably give up at a certain point in time.
Can I talk about another skateboard connection? This top right. That there are DVDs or VHSs at the time, I imagine, of like mixtapes of races happening.
Oh, of course.
Very skateboard culture, with the magazine too, and the outlawedness of skateboarding. Like you're putting on the cover a photo of a place you're not supposed to be doing a skateboarding activity. That's very taboo.
This is like the Thrasher tapes.
It's Thrasher tapes
of the era. Option is strictly at this point in time limited just to print. Option video hasn't come around. There is a Not As Empire is Option 2, and Option Video. So you had 2 magazines.
What's an Option 2?
What's our second option?
Here's cars that go really slow. This thing hasn't run in 50 years.
But we do need to call out something in the top right picture here that Zach was pointing out here. This is a much later like picture because it's got a DVD here. Yeah. But this DVD produced by Option is of Smokey Nagata's 200 mile per hour run.
Smokey!
Throwing it back to my first episode.
You've been holding on to that pin for such a long time.
I have.
Finally, the yarn's connected.
Yes. Is
that how that got big? Basically was like through Option's releasing of the video.
I mean, Option was sort of the outlaw, like, car magazine.
Was it the TMZ of car culture?
Kinda.
If you had a sick-ass mixtape, you're going to throw it to Option?
In America, we had something called Mischief, which was like all about like illegal street racing, and they produced like DVDs in the 2000s of like hoonigan shenanigans.
But it's also like you've reached a certain point when your shit's getting featured in an Option DVD.
Yeah, it's a crossing of like paths of some heroes that I've talked about. There's Smokey Nagata's like late 90s 200 mile per hour super run down the A1 freeway in England. The cameramen that he had with him were from Option magazine.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
It was a stunt. That's right. It was a stunt. Yeah.
And like other stunts that Smokey Nagata had done, like his 200 mile plus per hour run down like the subterranean, like below the water freeway from Tokyo to Yokohama. Like,
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Like all of these stunts, like Option was like, they were the people like pushing the line with the people who were doing like the cool illegal shit in Japan's like street racing scene and like legitimate racing scene. They're trying to somewhat legitimize the hobby. And that's where you get our bottom 2 pictures here. These are pictures from an event called the Tokyo Auto Salon.
I've been in a warehouse like this before. Yeah. I've been coaxed into paying $25 to see a bunch of cars before.
I've been to a boat show before.
I've been to a boats afloat show.
You're not wrong. These are a trade show. But the Tokyo Auto Salon began in 1983.
Okay.
It is SEMA, something that we have here in America.
SEMA balls?
Yes.
Fucking got him, Zach.
Fucking got that auto show.
Clip it.
He'll never record
W's
with
in the
us
chat.
again.
W's in the chat.
Got that auto show in Las Vegas. But no, in America we have SEMA, which is like an aftermarket parts suppliers, like trade show.
I want to say it again so bad.
SEMA balls.
I almost did.
SEMA nuts.
Jesus Christ.
Man, we are 8 years old, aren't we?
Turning 9 next year.
Woo. Yes. But this is an event that he founded that also went towards that like sort of like one specific focus of like continuing to build the car mod culture in Japan to a point where it was no longer like containable. And should no longer be considered illegal. A way of just like kind of like we did with weed here in America.
Right.
Just like if enough of us keep asking for it,
We stop going to gas station parking lots. It can display everything proudly in the open in an empty warehouse showroom.
Accepting the culture. I mean, this photo is not from the 80s, right?
No,
but
neither of them are.
Obviously, but that there was a big leap into the culture to say like we're going to display this. It's not illegal to modify your car, right? It's just taboo.
No, in Japan it is.
Really?
Yeah, like if you get caught modifying your car, which is like part of the thing, he's looking for is like the visual modifications. Because if you modify what's under the hood, which plenty of people are fucking doing at the time, like a cop's not going to know driving
Somebody
by
has
you.
to pop your hood
Right.
and check that.
Nobody knows if you slapped a turbocharger on a car that wasn't supposed to come with a turbocharger.
It's the flaunting of the exterior that
It's
really
the body
nails you.
kits. It's the spoilers. It's the shit that you definitely know didn't like come off the Toyota showroom.
It's your 8
That-
foot.
it doesn't pass the eye test.
Yeah. And I mean, granted, like Japanese cops didn't have very fast cars. The Midnight Club's whole thing was like, yeah, if you're just faster than them, they give up.
Yeah.
And a lot
That
of
was
people.
my mom's philosophy too with her Toyota Supra. It's like if I can beat them, then
Yeah, absolutely. If they can't catch
if you can catch me, I'll take the ticket.
Yeah. I outran a cop in utero with my father who had that same fucking philosophy in his 69 Roadrunner.
Well, you had to get to the hospital or something.
Nope,
like that, right?
nope. We were. My
was just a
mom was
recreational day?
6-7 months pregnant with me at the time, coming back from the obstetrics appointment, making sure like, oh yeah, baby's okay, you're all good to go.
It's a baby.
They're driving back to the Lake Kai trailer estates once again, doxing my parents.
Doxed.
Five years ago, and the Marysville Police Department, who knew my father and weren't a fan, decided like, let's slip on the cherries and berries and give him a fucking hassle.
Yeah, give it a hassle.
And my dad-
Old Robin Roberts, hello.
And my dad was just like, you know what? I think I can take him. And he did. He fucking lost him. And that's when my mom threatened, like, you ever do that shit again, you're not, like,
That's it.
It's over.
It's Jover.
You're never going to meet this baby. And so my dad kind of tuned down. He just went to getting speeding tickets instead of outrunning the cops.
Yeah, my dad would drink and drive.
I'm sure my dad did it a time or two.
That was
the
my
80s.
mom's last straw with him. But this car on the left, the bottom left, very speed racer in my book.
Yeah, that's a Datsun.
It's a Datsun?
Yeah, it's a 240Z.
Like the dog.
The Nissan. The Datsun. We got these in America, the 240 and the 280Z.
Really?
It was a car.
That's a fat hood.
Yeah, it's a long
You could
hood.
serve a family of 7 on that hood.
Yeah. I mean, they were trying to, like, the 1960s Japan, just like we talked about with, like, the 2000 GT, was just emulating what they'd seen, like, 5 to 10 years prior in Europe and America.
Totally. But they did it better to make it more, like, distinguishable and to make it more iconic, I would say.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, you had the time and people who were, like, dedicated and obsessive, even, with, like, the craft to then sort of, like, perfect what, like, had come to what had been imported to their shores.
I mean, like, the Zune is a ripoff of the iPod, and that just looks like a ripoff of the iPod.
And it was technically better than an iPod.
I mean, yeah, it was, because it played videos.
But us
For a
iPod
while.
boys would just make fun of the Zune kids like Ryan.
You were a Zune kid?
Yeah, dude. I need to like mine that hard drive with that Zune because there's so much music from just like local shit.
Oh,
in
yeah.
Local shit.
I found that on my.
2006
I
to, like,
recently found my
2008.
iPod, the same thing, and like a lot of pure volume downloads and stuff. I told you guys my dad bought a Zune on my birthday, right?
For himself?
Yes.
I know.
Option magazine, huh?
Option Magazine, Jaijiro
Carboys.
Inada, a unsung hero as well. Like, I'm throwing another hero into this because this guy, if Kaiichi Tsuchiya was like the man who like made drifting into a global phenomenon through his own personal exploits, you need a publicist. You need someone who can help get the word to the masses, just beyond those who are sitting at the
need a
racetrack
street team.
watching you do it. And Inada is that man. And by the time 1987 rolls around, they put a plan together with a couple corporations, Kala Suspension and Plus P Performance.
Okay.
And they make a 3-part series called Plus P. Oftentimes called Plusby. People don't really know how to say it.
Plusby.
So the logo for the tuning shop Plus Performance Plus P looks like plus and then just like the addition sign and then the letter P. But if you like spell it out like they did in kanji on the cover of these VHS tapes, and then it comes to you into North America, it looks like it might be Plusby.
Yeah.
Plusby.
It's just
People didn't really know how to say it.
purely phonetic, but it does stick with you. Nothing else is called Plusby.
Yeah.
No.
That's a unique name.
It is very unique. And it's also unique in the fact that this is the first, like, rewatchable form of drifting.
These are skate tapes for drifting.
These are the drifting skate tapes, Zach. These are the Thrasher tapes for drifting.
These are so fantastic. I'm so glad I said
I know.
something.
I'm so glad you did as well. Knowing I had this one locked and loaded in the chamber.
That's sick.
But yes, Plus P is a 3-video series comprised of The Tugay Part 1, The Tugay Part 2, and West of Sendai, which is a city in like the Kanto region of Japan.
Okay.
It's a mixture of both like street racing footage and like legitimate like just highlights of auto races that Kaiichi Tsuchiya was a part of,
like tournaments or competitions.
Just like real
competition
races
footage,
Both legal
hooligan
races
shit.
and hooligan
Ooh.
shit.
Yeah,
just
and
kinda
I mean,
blended together.
There's impressive like
Fun.
motorsport throughout, you know, both the legitimate and the illegitimate. But what really made the name of Plus B was the illegitimate shit. Like, I took some screenshots here from Plus B itself.
Shout out.
These
Shout
are
out
like
to Plus
just
B.
directly. That's why they're in like 240p.
Yeah,
because
the
this
internet's weird. I thought maybe it was just a Google search.
This is a VHS tape from a year before I was born, as the oldest member of this podcast.
Gotta say, graphic design, 12 out of 10.
Yeah,
Exactly.
12 out of 10 for both of these.
These aren't just like a mixtape. Like, these are almost a legitimate art film. I would make the argument that they are because of like.
Whoa! Do they throw music behind these?
Yes.
Do they
they throw
throw
some
like
CKY
do they
behind
throw
it?
like city pop and like Eurobeat, and that's why we have Eurobeat? And
We're not in Eurobeat yet, but there is city pop. There is
it's just stay with me.
there is the most like MIDI keyboard like kind of shit. No drum and bass.
No?
It's still very like, because as decades bleed into each other, we think of like the 80s as like the era of like techno and drum and bass. This is still, I guess, even very late in Japan because it's 87, but we're still very like kind of late 70s electronic music. So it's like
It's Casio
People have
Kevin.
It's Casio Kevin on the 1/4. It's just
Yeah, exactly. But our first shot of Plus B is black and white. It is a from the
Shit.
ground shot.
Absolutely Lynchian.
absolutely Lynchian. You're about to see a foot come out of that door so fast.
You're about to watch a foot go into the door.
Into the
this
car.
is Kaiichi opening the door to his personal AE86.
Yo.
And opening the door to us, the audience, watching the film.
Yes.
Good B+ art film summary.
you.
About
Thank
2
Essay.
seconds later, part of the reason why I picked this one is because like this is a visual I have seen at this point thousands of times in
No
my
shit.
life.
Okay.
This is the ignition switch of a Toyota. And as we know, Toyotas are parts bin vehicles. So, like, the ignition switch on the Toyota of Kaiichi Tsuchiya's AE86 that he's using for this illegal street racing, like, mixtape is the same fucking ignition switch that's in my 4Runner. It was in my Camry. It's in my Geo Prism.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was in the Supras that I owned. Like, it's just ubiquitous.
They didn't change this.
That's a feeling.
You have like off labeled up here, then you have accessory where you have accessory power but the engine's not on, and then you have your on here, and then you have your start.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You crank from on to start. That's when you're actually engaging the starter on your engine, and like the starter motor's cranking the engine to actually get it to fire up, and then the key returns to the on position where it rests the entire time you're driving until you turn the car off. And if you only turn it,
That is how it works. Yeah.
if you only turn it one click,
I guess we are in the push to start culture now, so
Yeah.
revisiting how the ignition switch on a car works is
yes, exactly.
It's worthwhile. Yeah.
But like this is something like as a Toyota enthusiast and like someone who's owned several of the vehicles from that car, like this is something in a video series that came out a year before I was born, with an experience I've never had. I've never been an illegal street racer.
Totally.
But like 3 seconds in, I'm immediately captured by an image of something that I've looked at so many times through my life, whether I was like just getting from point to B, going on a date, delivering pizzas.
Drunkenly scraping it to try to get home. tunnel, just trying to find where the thing goes in.
Get in there.
Scraping the H off of that molding.
Yeah, and then we have our VHS covers here. This is the Tugay Part 1. This is the Tugay Part 2 here in the left. Thus, the number 2 there is kind of a dead giveaway.
Part 2.
Couldn't find like a cover for West of Sendai. By the time like that Part 3 was dropping, like the Japanese authorities were becoming aware of Plus B.
They found out that Snoop Dogg smokes weed, apparently.
And they were not happy about it. At this point in time, like it was ordered, like every retailer who had copies of the Plus P VHS were ordered to like take it from the shelves and then have it like send it to
bury
be destroyed,
it,
like send it to a landfill.
Atari.
By the time West of Sendai is coming out, like it had caught on.
They are bringing down the hammer on this.
It wasn't all fun and games.
Well, this is once again kind of tying back to the first episode I ever did. Japan's not a big fan of their citizens filming their crimes and like making a big public like show of it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And the hammer comes down on Kaiichi as well. Here he is wearing
That's him?
Wearing his trademark
Shortless?
Yes, his
Install 40, I imagine.
Shortless.
By the rules of deduction.
Jorking his peanuts in the in the Striped Club.
Him and his ringside gear. He's not in Money in the Bank tonight, but he's showing up.
But no, I mean, racing suits are hella fucking hot. So if you're just sitting there talking about a car, you might as well just take the top off it and get a little bit of a breeze going.
Yeah, why not?
But this is like
a good interview setup too. That is awesome. That's an awesome framing right there. You got your leading lines. You got your. I mean, he is kind of off-centered for the shot.
Yeah.
I would rather have him more far right or dead centered, but hey, what are you gonna do? Cool prop for the chair. Love the attire.
At this point, he's not even pointing at his 86 Corolla. He does use it throughout the movie. But this is also an AE92. It's like 11. It's a further edition. Like at this point, he's been racing Corollas for 3 years now. He's built the reputation. He's won so many races. So he's getting newer versions of the rear-wheel drive sports version.
Was he upgraded himself in the rankings of the economics of it? Is he getting these cars like on the dirt cheap, or is he getting them comped or anything? Or
He's just getting money. He's not officially racing for Toyota yet. And unfortunately, this did lead to a suspension of his racing license.
Oh.
Okay.
The Japanese racing scene was like, "Hey, dog, like you can't."
Have you seen this shit?
You can't be one.
Are you actually illegally doing this shit?
My kid loves this shit, and it's highly illegal.
You can't be one of our biggest stars and just publicizing the crimes you're doing. Like we all were aware you were still doing crimes, street racing.
Yeah.
But you can't just go around like making VHS tapes out of it.
That's forever. You know that, right?
But enough of them had sold and enough of them were able to be preserved that, like, even to this day, like, you can go on YouTube, type in Plus B, and you can watch all three of them as a series, which is generally, like, over time, the three-part, the Tugay Part 2, and West of Sendai are now just known as Plus B.
Okay.
Because those are the only Plus B movies.
Yeah.
Or at least, it's your big three.
I mean, it was just like Plus B, like for some reason it was the name that was attached. It was just one of the sponsors. You also had like Kala, like suspension parts, which his car had on it at the time. So they decided like, yeah, fuck it. If it brings more teenagers in to buy our parts, like, yeah, we'll be a part of your illegal street racing video.
Well, you also have probably some higher ups like wiping the sweat off their brow. Like at least it's not named after our suspension parts company.
Yeah. At least we're not catching heat.
And then Option Magazine also was heavily leveraged in it because like this is where Option Video is beginning to like kind of make its traction. And then 10 years later would make a Smokey Nagata does big automotive crime in the UK.
So are we talking that this is like the introduction of the societal criminalization of like customized cars and street racing and bringing it to the forefront? And like,
if anything, this was like counterintuitive to Anada's like goal of like trying to make modified racing cars more like widely accepted in.
But this is like a first shot of the culture, right? This is the shot heard around the world.
Step way before, because this is when everyone finds out how cool this shit is.
Yeah, like to see drifting before this, you had to be at a race live or on the side of like a Tugay behind a guardrail watching your buddy like drag race someone down a mountain.
Okay, I'm getting my head around this. This made it public.
Yeah.
For the people to consume. But otherwise, you knew about this, what they're doing in the videos, drifting.
You'd heard about it, maybe.
Yeah, you heard like, oh, they are street racing up in the mountains at night, and it's your best guess what they're actually doing. How dope it fucking is.
And the variety of
it's pretty dope.
It's pretty dope. You're missing out.
To get back to the filmography of this as well, like you have all of these action shots, you have these artistic shots, you have a lot of arguably one shots of a dude just in the back of the car as like driving is happening. So many of these scenes are just one shots.
It's just keep the camera rolling while he's driving, doing dope shit.
And also intermits like amongst like the drifting showcasing, the street racing, the legitimate racing. You also just have, Kaiichi with his tits out, just talking about his philosophy of like car driving and racing and what it means to like be a driver.
An interview, huh?
Yeah. And I mean, you even have scenes like the lower right-hand corner here, which really doesn't look all that cool.
I believe that's an arrow going the opposite way of the car.
I can feel the speed in this photo.
Yeah.
Just from like the VHS quality. Like somebody is just vibrating in
from the
that back
240p.
seat. Yeah. But yeah, Plus B is what helps like take over the world in terms of drifting. Like it helps. Like on top of his like public exploits in the races, this also meets like a young Japanese public in a zine culture that is now more proliferated than ever. And like, people now have more VCRs in their homes than ever before. And you can go to the local like shop where magazines are sold or even auto parts are sold.
Also,
Could you imagine? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's late 80s. It's the golden era of the VHS when everyone's throw anything on a tape and you start getting these like home movie type shit that eventually turns into your backyard wrestling, making that big, within a couple years later, your Jackass type shit and all that.
Yeah.
It's when anybody can have a camera, the niche rises it to the top.
Yeah. Thankfully for Kaiichi, his suspension only lasts for like less than a year, from what I can tell. He was suspended in 1987 after
Not car
Plus B
suspension, his
comes
racing
out.
suspension,
But by 1988,
slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
It's not too bad.
people gotta realize, like, hey, if I want people to buy tickets to my racing event, I kind of have to have
I gotta have
Kaiichi
LeBron
there.
James here, guys.
Yeah.
So by 1988, he was back racing, like his suspension was over.
Revenge Tour.
He was racing, and he won.
Revenge Tour de France.
He won the 1988 Toyota Cup.
Of course he did.
Something I
That's our
can't.
fucking boy, dude. That's our fucking boy.
I don't know what car he was driving. I don't know how many people were driving in it. I tried to look up the information for this, and every time I just would Google 1988 Toyota Cup Japan race, I kept getting a horse race. So maybe he was on a horse. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think he was.
Okay.
But that's the number one result in pictures, and I could not. And then I just kept finding like cars that had like a chassis code 88 in them that were coming out around that time. Could not find anything.
Don't you love
related
Google sometimes?
to that cup race? Yeah, it's fucking great, and the AI has only made it better.
Oh, yeah.
You remember when you like used to get like kind of what you were looking for? You might have to look a little bit, but now you have some robot telling you that it's cool to eat like 1 to 2 small rocks a day.
Yeah. Although it's never gotten me astray, but I have seen a lot of results that are just like, wow, that's really interesting that an AI would tell you to do that.
When they're just giving you information from an Onion article without like any sort of ability to comprehend that that's satire.
Yeah, I think Google was really late getting in the AI game, and they're gonna be caught with their head up their own ass trying to fix it.
No, it all fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But this isn't like the only time that Kaiichi and his influence would be felt in the Japanese zine scene. There is also a magazine called Weekly Young Magazine.
Okay, these are bad titles.
I know.
I've heard of
right?
this, but this one's just sort of like pop, like music.
Yeah.
movies.
It's not a autofocus. It's just supposed to be like a teen magazine. It's like Tiger Beat in Japan. And Jesus Christ with the weeb shit, boys. So,
Oh my god, he has anime stats! Oh no,
Yeah.
that's initial D. Wait a second.
it is Initial D, Ryan. Congratulations.
Wow, the weeb allegations.
We're not beating them. So in Weekly Young Magazine, there was the creator, this guy right over here, whose name is Shuichi Shigeno. And he was inspired by what he saw in zines, what he saw in the mixtapes about the illegal street racing scene in Japan. And he was an illustrator, and he wanted to sell something that he felt would maybe be hot with the youth. And so he created a serial in a magazine at the time called Initial D.
Okay.
And he did reach out to Kaiichi Tsuchiya, inevitably, to be a technical coordinator on this project.
So he's the guy you call whenever you have a car-related question.
Yeah, and also, too, I've talked a lot about Kaiichi's life story, and it's really fucking close to the life story of Takumi Fujiwara, the protagonist of Initial D.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it was super hard not to bring up, so he doesn't spill his tofu while he's racing around with parts. And
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So while Shuichi has
have you
never
watched Initial D, Zach?
I have never heard of this in my life.
Okay, it's a 90s as fuck
shonen anime. So you have your small cast of heroes. They all love cars and they all drift down mountains and become the Drift King. As like other car clubs are starting to move in on their mountain.
Okay.
But it's anime as fuck. It's like,
Sure.
he pulled out his special move.
Yep.
What? You call that car racing?
Naughty.
Inertia drift.
We all Taylor and I, we watched it over the course. We marathon through it through like a week and a half, like the first season of it. And what they call him, like the ghost of the mountain. We think we saw a ghost.
The ghost of the Phantom of Akina Pass. Yeah, Akina Mountain.
He's like a phantom.
Yeah.
Is this like a Pokemon thing?
It's kind of like a Pokemon thing because it also drops in 1995 and becomes a massive international phenom.
Oh, fuck yeah.
By as of today, it inevitably gets picked up from just like the Sunday paper of Weekly Young magazine and becomes a full-blown fucking manga. At this point, Kaiichi's on board, and he's providing these panels here, which are like anytime think of like Inglourious Bastards. Whenever a new character is introduced, you get sort of like a bio of that character.
Taylor, I feel like I'm the most like anime manga weeb out of all. I mean, you're pretty damn deep. Bios are no different. I mean, you read One Piece.
Yeah.
It's endless. It's more than the Q&As. It's all just endless. Whose birthday is this? What's their bio? What do they like? It's just, it comes with the territory, but you could also make bios for cars.
Yeah. Exactly.
You've anime-ized cars in a sense.
And Kaiichi is like providing the actual like technical specs. So like as a Japanese youth reading this manga, when you see the R32 Skyline GTR here run by one of the members of the Night Kids that Takumi has
all
to
these
race
names
against,
are just disgusting.
You're getting the real specs. Like you're getting the actual like this is the horsepower, this is the curb weight, this is like the parts that come from the factory on it. This is why it's a cool fucking car.
Yeah.
And so you're learning about this shit while you're reading this manga about your favorite like high school street racer who's just like me for real.
Yep, just like me for real.
Unlike Kaiichi Tsuchiya, who was always like determined to become an auto racer, Takumi Fujiwara is just a bored teen who works for the family business, delivering tofu to the mountain resort at the top of Mount Akina, which is just a 1-for-1 like replacement of Mount Haruna, one of the mountains where
they just mad-libs the name.
Yeah.
There's so much that's just mad-libbed. City S, where Takumi Fujiwara is from, is just Shabuka City.
No, they're not even subtle with it. They're about as subtle as our main boy back there, framed back in the green pants.
Right.
No. Like it's a city where like the creator grew up, so he knew what he was. Like the Lake Akina swan boats are real. Like the lake, they are the lake at the top of Mount Haruna's swan boats. The gas station where the protagonist Takumi Fujiwara works was like a 1-for-1 recreation of the real gas station in Shabuka City where the creator had grown up.
That kind of detail.
Even so much so that the family's Fujiwara tofu shop like legitimately existed.
It's based on an actual like tofu shop. The thing I love about manga around this time, and it's something I love and hate, is tracing. But Initial D can totally get away with it because they're tracing over photos of cars. or applying sometimes just a simple filter just to get the point across on a photo. But it works. It works in Initial D so well because it grounds it in. No, that's an actual Nissan Skyline.
Right.
That's an AE86.
We're not faking this or like exaggerating this at all.
Yeah. And, you know, like, there are some parts that are not a one-for-one. Like, Takumi wasn't interested in racing. Kaiichi was.
Yeah.
Takumi races a A86 Corolla. Kaiichi was not. Like, when he was a teenager, he was riding a Skyline because the A86 Corolla was a decade plus from, like, being in production.
Is this supposed to take place in the 80s? It's supposed to be a timepiece?
The 90s.
I think
the 90s.
It's contemporary for when it came out.
Oh, okay.
So 1995 is when like it goes from being like a serialized cartoon in a magazine to a full-blown manga, and by 1998 it has an anime adaptation. This is when season 1 of Initial D comes out.
Does the manga actually exist if the anime is not made out of it?
Yeah. Yes,
I mean,
I've read some really good manga that are waiting for an adaptation.
okay. But yeah, and like there was so much attention to detail because of Kaiichi's technical like consultation to it. Like the car noises you hear in the anime are like they just went and recorded with a Tascam like us.
Yeah, probably.
The name or some sort of audio recorder, the real exhaust notes of that car. And so you put that
Some nerds with the headphones and microphones are like, yeah, that's fucking it.
Exactly. And then we have the iconic like first scene of the anime series here, where Takumi, a board...
Also very early 3D models.
Yeah.
Late 90s 3D models, but they tried. It looks better than a PlayStation at the time.
You got Takumi and the family businesses A86 Trueno with its carbon fiber hood and the family logo along the side here. He's coming back from a late night delivery up at Lake Akina's mountain resort. And you know what? He just blows past this guy here in an FD RX-7, who is one of the #1 stars of the Akina Red Suns. And he can't believe it.
Ever seen.
An old jalopy AE86 is blowing past him, and the driver is yawning. Not only does he pass you around a turn, and he's going way too fast for the next corner, but wouldn't you know it, he busts a perfect inertia drift.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. And this sets up like the main rivals for Takumi Fujiwara, whose name are Keisuke and Ryosuke Takahashi.
Money?
A tip of the cap for Kunimitsu Takahashi, the inspiration, the guy who inspired Kaiichi Tsuchiya to become an automotive driver. Like, so the references are all throughout.
Yeah.
Even though
blatant.
He got a name drop, yeah.
This is a unreliable narrator biography of Kaiichi Tsuchiya and his like young drifting career. But so like there's so many parallels between Takumi and Kaiichi, and there's also so many like tips of the cap to like the giants of the shoulders of which you stand upon in the automotive sport world, including the A86 Corolla. Like, the argument is that if, Takumi is driving a Supra, an R34 Skyline, an R32 Skyline, and a Mazda RX-7 like his rivals, like, it's not as much of a hero's journey. You need this underpowered economy car to be...
With the front-wheel drive, right?
No, the A86 is rear wheel.
My bad.
But you need this car like to be your hero's journey, to take you from like the basics, and then inevitably in season 2 the engine blows up on him when he's pushing it too hard in a race. So what do? They go get a 3G STE motor, the same engine that was out of the Celica that was cheating in World Rally Championship.
Right.
And his dad and him slap that fucking thing in there, and now it's even faster, so it can logically kind of someone keep up with these far superior cars.
And they could deliver tofu pretty fucking fast.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And Takumi's like entire
20 minutes or it's free.
Oh, it's free. Yeah.
his entire inspiration for driving and winning these races is his dad won't let him borrow the family car unless he goes and wins the race. That's the only way he can take the girl that he likes out on a date.
Classic.
Oh my god. The stakes have never been higher.
He's got to win the race on Friday if he wants to be able to have a car to go on his date on Saturday.
Yep.
You can't take public transportation for a date.
No.
No,
You can't-
Not in
impossible.
Japan.
You can't show up on your gasoline bicycle or on the bus. No. by 1999, 2000, Tokyo Pop, which was a anime importing company out of LA, brought a lot of the animes that we know and love from our formative years. They brought Initial D here to America, and thus the phenomenon of drifting continues to expand.
D for drift?
Initial D. The D stands for dream, as you find out towards the end of... It's the dream of racing.
Stands for friendship.
It's the dream
that
of
we made along the way.
The freedom and possibilities that, man and machine being synchronous together can provide. But yes, Initial D, it sparks a revolution not only in Japan for the love of drifting, but here in America as well. Like, you have weebs who now have access to the internet. They can now download PDFs of Initial D. They can torrent seasons of the anime. And it's a lot.
LimeWire, Taylor. This is the era of LimeWire.
And it can also be distributed by Tokyo Pop. We had Stuart Levy, who was the American CEO of Tokyo Pop at the time, who also went by the pseudonym DJ Milky.
These names are insane.
I already knew this was a white guy, but now...
Yeah.
Well...
The whitest.
Milky, you'd say.
Keeping the tradition of white people alive, when he got his adaptation of Initial D, that he had the distribution rights to here in North America, he decided, you know what, that Eurobeat soundtrack? Fuck that. I'm going to rap. And that's going to be the soundtrack for it here in America.
Whoa.
Also, I'm going to do a dog shit job translating all of these Kaiichi Tsuchiya sourced technical specs, so a bunch of the information's wrong, and the subtitles are way the fuck off. Because he just did a really bad job. So this is also, at this point, early, mid-2000s. The fans in North America who, were taking Japanese class, like you boys, and were, weebing super hard, were making fan edits and, putting that shit up on torrent sites so that they go no, here's Initial D with, fan-made dubs and subs and the original Eurobeat soundtrack put in.
So it was the same anime, but it was just his dubs and his soundtrack.
But yeah, so I can't go too much in depth. This is its own fucking episode, but Kaiichi Tsuchiya's life and his contribution creates Initial D.
Okay.
So not only is he revolutionizing the sport in Japan, on the ground, doing it behind the wheel, he's doing it in media worldwide.
He's now a myth.
He's broadcasting
He's
it.
a piece of legend.
Oh, he's a myth. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the legacy continues, boys.
Oh.
Because Kaiichi, he's not just a drifter. He's a race car driver. He drifted to entertain the masses when he was so fucking far ahead of people, or he was on the Touge. It wasn't the only thing he did. This boy can still drive in other ways.
He doesn't just kickflip, okay? He can do a 900 too.
And so he does. And in 1992, he gets a call from Kunimitsu Takahashi.
No shit.
His fucking hero. Who has put together
boys.
Team Kunimitsu.
Predator handshake.
Oh my god.
His racing team.
Wow.
To enter the 1993 Japan Touring Cup series with the R32 Skyline. You have similar livery as to the Carrot Flashpoint, as you see. Advan also sponsored this team, as did STP Oil Filters. But yeah, so the livery.
Stone Temple Pilots, actually.
Yeah, exactly. They were first. But yeah. And so he got to fulfill a childhood dream. His fucking hero was in co-piloting with him in the car during these races. Being the hand-chosen driver by your childhood hero. And
is this a passing of the torch thing?
Absolutely. I mean, Kunimitsu has, he still fucks around in races every now and again, but now he's more of, he's a general manager of a racing team. He is an owner of a team at this point. He's trying to make money by, other people going and winning races and, getting that sponsorship dollars, because he's, not a young man anymore. He's now in his near 60s at this point. Or at least 1940 to 1992, he's 52 years old.
Wow.
You're kind of getting to the point where I gotta have an exit plan because I can't do this shit fucking forever. So that began a beautiful partnership that lasted throughout the 90s. It, culminated in the Japanese Touring Cup Classic with the GTR R32. Wonderful car. Once again, not everything has to be a Toyota. Like, if you're a racer,
Ford over there?
just put you. We'll get to that.
Okay.
I know that's the one I've been. holding
We're
my
gonna
finger
get to
at.
that.
I'm staring right at it.
A minute, boys. But yeah. So
First on race
here's a
day.
picture of our boys standing together in front of their NSXR
Their beautiful son.
at the 24 hour of Le Mans.
Oh, wow.
Like one of the most sacred races in all of auto racing.
and they got the
24
whole
hours.
track to themselves for that sick photo op. That's sick.
Yeah. And they were on a team together.
No, they were winning so hard.
They were winning so hard.
They
Yeah.
pulled off, got a photographer out.
Yeah, they were able to schedule a photographer for the finish line.
And in 1995, the same year Pokemon was supposed to come out,
Yeah.
and the same year that Initial D was hitting the fucking sheets
What a
of
year.
the manga, Kaiichi Tsuchiya was on a team with his childhood hero in France at Le Mans. Takahashi was always a big Honda boy. Honda gave them the best car they had, the NSXR. Go to Le Mans, put it through its 24-hour fucking trial, and, see if you can go out and win. And they did. They took second overall, but first in their class. There were faster cars, but, it's in classes. Everyone's kind of racing at the same time for 24 hours, and you have various classes. And, it's sort of like, if you're racing the $5 million car, we're not going to count you as the same class as the 1 million low and lower cars. And if you're out there, rocking it in the A86, you're in the Group C class. You came in 98th overall, but you came first in your class. So hey, great there. So we got to fulfill a lifelong dream of not only working with but winning races with his childhood hero.
That's something,
That's
man.
wholesome.
And then he, raced for other teams. He also raced for other exhibitions, bringing us to our lower corner
is that
here.
a NASCAR?
And other cars. You're goddamn right it is, Zach. In the mid to late 90s, NASCAR had this wild idea of maybe we can make waves in Japan.
What? This
Yeah.
was in Japan?
This is in Japan. He's racing a Ford Thunderbird.
This wasn't like the Premier League player coming to the United States to play in the MLS to be the best player of all time.
No, this
It's
is
like the MLS also just moving to an.
No, Zach. This is the Nippon. This is the MLB showing up in Japan to play against Nippon League players.
Oh god.
And if you were the Ichiro Suzuki of your time, Kaiichi Tsuchiya,
hell fucking yeah, you're gonna participate.
you got to play with the MLB players on these racetracks in Japan in NASCARs.
playing with their wood bats.
Yeah. So in 1995,
did he have to drive on the left side?
96 through 98. The NASCAR held races in Japan. So Dale Earnhardt's there. Jeff Gordon's there.
Fucking JG,
all the boys are fucking racing there. And number one in a Ford Thunderbird, I think, is Kaiichi Tsuchiya
Wow.
in a emerald green livery, just as iconic as his racing suits. Whenever he's racing for his own, he wore the red Advan when he was racing for Team Kunimitsu. But yeah. And he never really won any of them all because, it's NASCAR.
Yeah.
And they played by NASCAR rules, and he was never a NASCAR racer.
Right.
He was great at, the drift around corners shit. He wasn't great at the go fast and steer left.
Yeah.
Shit. And, the best in the world were out there competing with him. So, he was respectable. From what I read, never crashed out, never DNF'd, but, never won any of them.
Okay.
And it helped build the brand. You got American yokels watching Kaiichi Tsuchiya racing in NASCAR. It ain't regular season. It ain't Winston Cup shit. It ain't Talladega. It ain't Daytona. But, hey, it's something to keep you entertained in the off season while they're attempting to try and become more of an international brand. And maybe in my personal opinion, as a Toyota boy, his crowning achievement is, outside of his time with Kunimitsu Racing Team, he joined Team Toyota.
Is that Formula 1?
That is Le Mans.
Le Mans?
So in 1995, in 1990s,
The mountain?
the man, maybe. But in 1995 and 1996, Toyota attempted to enter the 24 Hours of Le Mans with a modified Mark IV Supra. It had a modified 4-cylinder engine rather than the 2J 6-cylinder engine because, there are weight.
Wait, so when you say modified Corolla, when is it not a Corolla anymore? When they say so?
When it's not the same thing you can buy at the store.
I can't buy that at a store.
No, you definitely cannot buy a Toyota GT1 at the store, Zach.
Okay.
That's true. They weren't racing that car at this point. This car is the product of all of the failure that Toyota suffered in the mid-90s at Le Mans.
Okay.
They had a car called the Supra. It was their flagship race car. And then they tried to modify it to a class where they thought they could maybe make it win by taking the 2J 6-cylinder, putting in a different 4-cylinder engine and pepping
Lego
that
parts
up.
together.
Yeah. And they thought, okay, well maybe we'll win in this class with the Supra. And they didn't. They kept losing. So 1995, 96, they lose. So they take some time off.
Okay.
And they go, we're
to the dojo.
We're building a car for Le Mans. We're not going to try and retrofit something like we did with the Celica in WRC or so many times like we've done before. We're going to build a fucking Le Mans car. And they made the Toyota GT1.
Okay, cool.
It's like 2,000 pounds because the whole body's made of carbon fiber. It's got a twin turbo V8 engine mounted in the back.
How many horses?
Producing over 600 horsepower.
Wow, 69. We started the episode at 69 horsepower.
Yeah, we're around Australia in double digits. Now we're entering the high trippy digits.
Wow, that's a lot of horses.
And also too, this car probably weighed damn near the same amount as that one that did the Round Australia Rally.
Yeah.
But has over 6 times the power.
Wow.
So it's a fast car. And who do you need behind the wheel of a fast car?
Tracy Chapman.
Yep.
Tracy Chapman, he knows.
Well, no, technically it would be Tracy Chapman's boyfriend.
Yeah.
Because she just works at...
Because that's the person who had the fast car.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's speeding so fast it makes you feel like you're drunk.
Somebody really needs to make a part 2 of that. The
crash car?
To Space Oddity.
I mean, Luke Combs almost did, but no, he just covered it. But he did finally give Tracy Chapman the recognition
Billboard
she deserved.
charting too, I believe.
And
a Grammy.
CMA.
CMA.
First black woman to win a CMA.
That is insane. I mean, well, this is America, so
yeah. But she wouldn't have ever been considered for a song that arguably is one of the most country fucking songs ever that talks about being destitute, impoverished, all you've got is a fast fucking machine, and then relationship problems that lead to broken families.
If only they brought up whiskey or
There's
beer.
nothing more... You see more of your friends than you do than your kids in the bar. One of the lines from the last verses of the song.
How do you know so much about that?
Because I fucking love that song, Zach. It's the most country fucking song ever written that was... Because it was a black woman, they would never consider until a fat white guy covered it.
Exactly.
30 fucking years later.
Yep.
But hey, at least she got her flowers finally.
Finally. Hey, sometimes it takes a long time to bloom.
It does. And you know what? Toyota's finally going to get their flowers. They built the car, and then they went out, they found Kaiichi, and they put him behind the wheel of it.
Oh, shit.
And he, much like he did in the NSX, won his class in Le Mans and took second overall.
Okay.
Again, huh?
In the class. So big awards for Toyota. And he got it done. And we're next going to talk about... this final picture here in the top right corner, just because I want another picture of that NSX. This is probably not from that day at that time. But in 2003...
But it is winking at us.
Kaiichi...
I think that car's having a stroke.
Is that car hitting on me from across the bar?
Well, it's an air intake, boys. When you don't need headlights... and your car has pop-up headlights, you just have one of them up, and then you put your the ram for your cold air.
That's so insane. That's awesome.
That's why
cool.
Dodge Demons and Hellcats are missing one of the 2 headlights up front, and it's just just an inlet in for air. People do this shit all the time with racing cars. But in 2003, Kaiichi Tsuchiya, after 26 years, decides, I'm going to finally hang it up as a professional racer.
Okay.
as a man who we will continue to discuss has had more impact maybe on modern auto racing than anyone else in the world. He decides he's finally going to hang it up and he's going to become a race team manager, much like his hero, Kunimitsu Takahashi, on top of several other endeavors in the automotive world. And so his final event is effectively one big fucking party for automotive racing in Japan. Like, they are going to send him out.
It's his
with
retirement
a fucking
party, huh?
bang. That's generally what it's called, regarded as, is the Tsukuba, which is the Tsukuba circuit, a raceway in Japan. It's called like the Tsukuba retirement party.
Okay.
It was marketed as something else, but now in retrospect, all it's known for is like, yeah, this was Keiichi Tsuchiya's like retirement as a professional racer.
He had already announced though that this was going to be
this was like a well-known fact. It was advertised.
It wasn't Stone
like,
Cold's last match.
No, it wasn't like The Rock's last match, and then he has another one
Oh my God.
later on, or and to bring it to pro wrestling terms, the 70,000 Terry Funk retirement matches, or in music terms, the Rolling Stones
They're touring
tour.
this year.
ad infinitum retirement tour.
They are on tour right now, guys.
No, this Keiichi Tsuchiya, this is his last time racing as a professional. This is the last time he's in the books, in the record books. This is the last time he's doing it legitimately.
Okay.
And everyone's there. Honda, Nissan, Toyota, Mazda, all the auto manufacturers, all of the like aftermarket parts manufacturers are there. You got people just wilding out. You got races. You got people setting time attack laps. It is a massive celebration of Japanese automotive racing.
A jamboree.
Surrounded around the retirement of one man who's had such an influence on the culture over the past 26 years. And it all culminates with Keiichi Tsuchiya attempting a record-breaking lap around the Tsukuba circuit.
How many laps are there?
So there could be several, depending upon whatever race that they're running at the
But
circuit.
it's just like a free-for-all?
But it's just a one lap.
It's a bunch of
around the
boys
racetrack.
on a half pipe just doing tricks?
Well, I mean, that was earlier in the day, but sort of the grand finale is
Give him one last
he's
chance.
on the course by himself. It's just one man, one car, one
this is
racetrack,
emotional. This is
one
really
faith,
emotional.
one baptism,
Just him in the road.
2 nunchucks. And he is out to beat the 56-second lap record that had been previously set by a different Japanese racer in an R32 Skyline, much like the one that he had raced for Kunimitsu. He's got his Kunimitsu Racing NSXR, and he has one lap to set out and
rule
break
them
the
all.
record.
The one lap is real.
He did 2 warm-up laps at the start of it, and people were like encouraging him, like, "Hey man, don't push yourself so fucking hard. Like, keep the car in shape, keep yourself in shape. Like, you just be ready to go for it." But he rampaged pretty hard for his warm-up laps to get like the car tuned in and get
Warm everything up a little bit.
for that day acclimated to what the track and the track conditions were like. And he goes out and he shatters it. He sets a 53-second lap record.
3 seconds.
He shaves 3 whole seconds off, which in automotive racing is huge.
Yes.
Off of a lap
Wow.
record. And he wasn't done. He
He
decided,
said bet.
fuck it, I'm going again.
3-1 enough.
Sit down. One more time.
I'm going to set 2 records today. 2 things are going to happen. I'm going to set the record, and I'm going to set the record again.
And he fucking did. His second
Wow.
lap, he set the record, which I believe still stands to this day, to like what I can research, at 51.87 seconds.
Wow. Shaved a whole
Shaving
other second
over a whole second
and
off.
change.
Yeah. After he finished that lap, he made his way in front of the grandstand of audiences, ripped fat fucking donuts, spelled his name in the outfield, Ricky Bobby style, and the usual reserved, conservative Japanese viewing audience who normally, politely clap when they see something that they want, went fucking nuts. They were screaming.
They're a
wilding
product of
out.
his culture that he built, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
They were able to look at what he's done and witness the accomplishment. And it only goes to say, this man has been playing with the automotive world his entire career.
Yeah.
That he could go break the record by 3 seconds and then say, bet I'm going to do it again. It's doing burnouts. It's doing drift.
It's
It's
drifting.
drifting when you're in first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a G.
The man's whole career in automotive racing. And not only...
He's like, y'all motherfuckers want a show?
Not
I'm going to give you motherfuckers a show.
I'm going to make some that'll make you fucking wild out. You normally sit there and you politely clap when you see something. I mean, pro wrestlers, once again, bringing you back into that world, they talk about how, like, the culture shock of when you get to go wrestle in Japan, when you get, like, this big money to be the American star, but you, like, it takes time to acclimate yourself to this audience that doesn't go nuts like the drunk rednecks in Charlotte, North Carolina. They politely clap, and, like, maybe you'll get one hoop or one holler from the rowdiest fucking Steve in the crowd when you do something absolutely fucking buck wild, and you just have to kind of like learn how to like, okay, that's the like reaction I'm going for, and like get used to it to like get over in that audience. No, this guy's getting the fucking rowdy, rough, redneck Charlotte reaction.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. They're snapping skull cans, baby.
Absolutely. And not only does his legacy continue, his legacy continues to continue.
Whoa.
Because there's a lot of shit I haven't
We're
even
going to end
yet.
at Tokyo Drift. I know it. There's going to be a fucking cameo slide where he's in Tokyo Drift. I see it happening.
Well, look at the lower right-hand corner, Zach.
Ah!
Yeah. So let's talk about legacy.
Let's talk about it.
He's still a celebrated dart ripper.
Dart ripping.
Yep.
He's still ripping
The
them
wheeling,
darts.
dealing,
Loves
dart
emerald
ripping.
green. Loves ripping darts.
Absolutely.
Oh my
Loves
God.
going fast.
I just wanted to celebrate that aspect of his legacy. He still rips darts, even while the pussies like us, me and Ryan, have turned to the alternatives. He's still out there fucking
Climbing that Everest.
burning heaters. He also, in addition to Plousby, he also then later came out with, as you know, the shit became less underground and more mainstream, he came out with his video series for Best Motoring, a TV show that he hosts called The Drift Bible, which is just a series about like how to be a good drifter.
Well, first off, it's blasphemy.
Say second off, it's not very subtle, but I guess if you're going for mainstream,
Right.
Well, I mean, he's owning up to everything. It says The Drift King is presenting you the Drift
That's
Bible.
where I can
Fuck,
gamble,
it's
right?
the first time on DVD.
And this is the shit that, like, if you're a Japanese hot boy, like, JDM enthusiast in the mid-2000s, this is the shit you're getting on torrents as you're learning about this sport that's just now coming to our shores, called drifting, that our dads knew in the NASCAR days as power sliding. This is drifting. This is a whole art form and race style where that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Like, it was power sliding was like how good drivers got out of it so they could keep going straight and steering left. But this is the whole, like, in these races, the whole point is to get as sideways as possible and maintain that position. And long before his retirement, in the mid-90s, Kaiichi got back together with Inada, his old friend from Option Magazine. Sorry for the edits, Ryan. And he
Not staying in.
started to form his own little grassroots racing series called Ikaten.
Is
in
that
Japan.
this comedians in cars getting coffee kind of shot we have here?
Nope, we'll talk about that in a second. This is what I'm talking about right here. Part of his legacy is not only what he did in Japan with Ikaten, which was, like I said, a grassroots. People are showing up with the cars that they daily drive, and they are just throwing it down a track legally, you know, for the first time in a sanctioned drift event in Japan. So you're not worried about getting pulled over and like, arrested by the cops.
You can just go and show off and go sideways.
You can go
Is this the story of NASCAR, but in Japan? Like, is this really like...
Yeah.
This is bootlegging. This is like doing criminal shit. But now, like
now we're going legit.
Now we see the man, the face that just gets us into that period where it's like it's cool now.
Part of what I like so much about the Ikaten days of the mid '90s is it's no one's taking it seriously. This is like the 24 Hours of Lemons, which is a racing series that apes the 24 Hours of Le Mans, but you're doing it in a car that costs less than $500.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And you're just racing.
Oh, I've heard of this. Yeah.
or the Gambler 500 in Oregon, which is a bucket list item for me, which is 500 miles through the wilderness of Oregon in a car that costs $500 or less.
Wow.
These races that are like so everyman that like literally anyone can afford and join in the progress.
It's the key ignition thing, man.
Yeah.
It's like I've seen that car, I've driven that car, or like that I've recognized that car, and there's somebody that is taking it to its limit. Right?
And Keiichi wanted to, as a guy who, made his name in the illegal scene and then continued on with it and got punished for being a part of it while he had gone legit, wanted to create an avenue for those who, like the next generation of the illegal Hashiriya.
He wanted his hood
burning
to get
it down the mountain.
He wanted to raise his hood up.
Yeah.
He wanted to, yeah.
A rising tide lifts all ships, and so his boat's sitting awfully fucking high.
Yeah.
And he needs to bring the water up to bring it around it. And so you could tend, like, no one's taking it seriously, but it's a great showcase for, like, those who, want to make a name for themselves.
Of course, it's an open invitation to the public.
No one's winning sponsorships. There's not much, if at all, any prize money. You're racing, and you're getting, like, the rank of various, like, weird little sea creatures, like, all the way from, like, guppy to squid.
Are you really naming that?
Yeah.
Oh, hell
like,
yeah.
if you were really showing up and showing out and, like, drifting your dick off, you were getting the
fucking
rank
makeup.
of
Man, you
squid.
can't talk to me like that. I'm an oyster.
I'm an oyster, baby.
And K Performance, the automotive like performance like company that Keiichi was a part of, like adopted squid as like its little mascot. He had a little squid guy with a little kanji, I think, word for squid on it, as the like mascot that you would see on the box when you bought the parts when you went to the store to get the Hot Boy shit that your hero
I'm on Hot Boy shit.
was selling out to the world. And if we're going to talk about the middle comedians in cars getting coffee here, by the 90s, Keiichi Tsuchiya, he's a household name in Japan, and Option Magazine, they've gone somewhat legit, and, mainstream media is now looking to replicate the success of, like, the BBC's Top Gear.
Oh.
They want their own automotive media. And so you have Best Motoring, which is a show hosted by Keiichi Tsuchiya, and even Hot Option.
Hot Option?
Yeah. Or Hot something.
That is the worse than Top
They
Gear.
are paying their title creators too well.
Yeah. Someone's making too many bags off of these names.
But it's a show where, like, he has guests on, or he's just driving by himself, and, like, he's driving, the latest, sports car from Nissan, Mazda, Toyota, Honda, and, like, giving his thoughts about it as a professional driver that then helps, like, boost the name brand of that particular car.
Everyone to make some money.
Yeah, before it hits the public. Like, he still hosts Best Motoring events and, like, even features to this very day.
Wow.
Like, his legacy continues to live on in that aspect.
I just know there's got to be hours of footage of, like, whatever Japanese, like, daytime TV, the over-the-top and they're just like, yeah, we're in his car and we're going sideways. You got picture-in-picture, just kanji across the screen, and somebody's like,
Shing ha.
Also, I must actually go back. I forgot something.
Okay.
The Ikaten then evolved into what is called a D1, or like a playoff of Formula One or Drift One.
Okay.
Grand Prix. The D1 GP, as it's known, it became, sort of the, like, hey, this is the pro racing series, much different than the Ikaten, which is amateur fun times. This is like, hey, we got teams, we got sponsors, we got pro drivers out here doing...
We got Monster Girls, we have tents with people trying to sell you stuff.
Godzilla's here.
Godzilla's fucking here. Sponsored by McDonald's.
Yeah. And, like, D1 GP, like, had, like, one season in Japan before, like, drifting had somewhat, like, permeated into American culture enough that by the 2000s you have D1 GP events occurring here in America.
Really?
And you have guys
Just
like
blows up.
You have guys like Ken Block and like other American household
Jeopardy
names. No, that's Ken Jennings.
Nah,
Ken Block
thank
was
you.
the Hoonigan guy or the Gymkhana guy.
Right.
He was.
They have some sick mixtapes
He was like
too.
a skateboarder who then became a like race car driver.
Yeah. It's a pipeline.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah.
Same with like
sports
going from 2 wheels to 4 wheels.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big pipeline.
yeah.
Like I've broken my legs too many times to just. I'll sit in the car now.
But I mean, now drift events are like, some of the like biggest draws in the world of automotive racing outside of NASCAR here in America. And like, Inada and Tsuchiya were like the founders of these events and are even still involved to this day.
That's awesome.
To these like auto franchises and these races. And then, yes, pointing out the bottom right-hand picture here. In 2006, when Lucas
Otosans?
Black and his big-ass forehead...
Oh, Ji-san. Otosan's dad, yeah.
Well...
In 2006,
Somebody.
when... the not super tuned in crackers, myself included, were introduced to drifting with a little movie called The Fast and the Furious 3, Tokyo Drift, a movie that stars none of the stars of the first two Fast and the Furious movies.
For like about 99% of the movie?
It was this close to being a straight to DVD in the Walmart.
I was going to say, it's a wonderful straight to DVD movie released to theaters. Not knowing it was an actual
Only because they got the Vin Diesel cameo.
Yeah.
Well, that is the only thing that kept
their
Universal
bargaining chip.
from putting it like
Which, for me,
theaters.
when I watched it, I said, this movie sucks so much ass, I watched only half of it. I started my Fast and Furious adventure at Too Fast, Too Furious. And then I watched the hell out of that DVD. And then when Tokyo Drift came out, I was like, oh, let's see what happens. Is fucking Paul Walker in this one? He's not in this one. Oh, this movie sucks ass. Bow Wow's in it? And then I never got to the Vin Diesel part.
You probably never even made it to the point where the character of Sean, played by Lucas Black, the inventor of drifting, as I pointed out in slide 2, is learning how to drift in that documentary.
Yeah.
And the minds that be at Universal and like the people like Craig Lieberman, who was just barely involved with a project like this, the guy who was basically like the car coordinator for the first two Fast and the Furious movies. Knew enough to
He
like,
knew what an engine was.
hey, if we're doing a movie in Japan about drifting, we should probably get this guy involved.
Should we Google drifting in Japan before we make a movie about
Who
it?
drifts in Japan? And they just found like, we need the number one and number two.
You need Kaiichi Tsuchiya, who has a couple cameos during the drifting at the dock scene where the character is on his hero's journey and he's now moving from, straight line fast American racing to learning how to drift in his rear-wheel drive converted Mitsubishi Evo 8. A car
Remember
that
the
really
Evo?
Yeah, it's a dope car.
It's a dope car.
Dope as hell.
Mitsubishi was cooking with the Eclipse and the Evo.
But yeah, they decided to throw some fucking scenes in of Kaiichi Tsuchiya initially shit-talking big old forehead Lucas Black, being like, you call that motherfucking drifting? That's some dumb bitch shit, to like inevitably be grudgingly be like, all right, he's kind of getting it. And even so, the character Han Solo,
Right.
that became,
Seoul. It's Seoul, like the Korean
Seoul,
town.
South Korea,
Yeah.
big city. Talks about, as he's introducing, like, okay, we're moving from the docks to the mountainside, of like, drifting got its start in the mountains. It was just kids out here fucking around because there was no one to watch over them. Another reference to like Kaiichi Tsuchiya.
I'm gonna watch this movie again with new eyes.
Yeah.
Knowing the history of drifting.
But regardless of the impact this man has had, drifting, the number one hot...
Is Han supposed to be Japanese or is he supposed to be Korean?
He's supposed to be Japanese.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He's a Japanese man.
All right.
Despite, all of the impact that Kaiichi Tsuchiya has had on the automotive world, there is one car that he has chosen to stick with this entire time. And as we can see, he gets older. This is a man who was born in 1956. This is a man who is now 68 years old.
Huh?
That's my dad's age. This guy's my dad's age.
Yeah, the car that's been in his
My
rotation.
dad looks worse, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. The car that's been in his rotation the entire time, the A86 Tirreno with its emerald green matching his racing suit, carbon fiber hood.
Look at that.
A car that you see in Plus Speed, a car that you would see out on the Touge getting it done. It is the car that he has never forgotten about. He has raced so many objectively better cars. The Toyota GT1, the Nissan Skylines, the Le Mans RSX, NASCARs.
The Ford NASCAR.
But he has never lost his love for this one car. And this is how I truly tie it into my whole motif of it being a Toyota episode.
Totally.
Yeah.
I covered it a little bit, but it's time to touch on it once again. And I think it's summed up best in the words of Bunta, Takumi Fujiwara's father, in Initial D, effectively just straight ripping off like quotes and things that Kaiichi Tsuchiya has said about the A86. He says that it is a car that helps polish and refine your driving. In this way, the 8.6 is an ideal partner. It's attractive, reliable, and it pushes you to better yourself. It shows you your limits and helps you to move past them. It's like, even though this man has reached some of the pinnacles of automotive racing, he still returns to this car to learn where his limits are and have a car that won't kill him. Help him move past those limits so he can attain like that next step. You move up to like step 7 and then you move back to step 1 with your A86.
Interesting.
You learn about yourself as a driver before you take on the next level of machine.
Yeah.
And I think that's relatively poetic.
It is.
Absolutely.
I think that, it's beautiful, like that, a car that was so meant for the masses was adopted by one man and made a rock star. So much so to the point that a car has like over 20 times doubled its value here in America, because everyone wants to like get a piece of this nostalgic era of like the golden era of Japanese like automotive driving. And so we're going to leave Kaiichi Tsuchiya and his wonderful A86
So
behind.
happy. He's so happy right there.
And next time, we're going to meet Maurizio.
Holy cow, what?
Who the fuck is Maurizio?
That's a question I'm going to answer in my next episode.
I know it's his goddamn brother Kikoro.
We'll talk about that next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, dear listener. I am Taylor.
I'm Zach.
I'm Ryan.
And this has been Tales from the Slide Deck, or The Tales and the Slide Deck, Tokyo Drift. The weeb continues. From the bottom of all of our hearts, thank you so much for listening.
Sayonara.